Okay, that's cute. My name is Mufasa. I'm a performance poet. I'm passionate about justice and human dignity. This is called My Boys Are Dying. I said I pray from this heart of mine for the motherland. Come on. I pray the Lord will make it rain upon the motherland. Come on. I said I pray from this heart of mine for the motherland. Come on. I pray the Lord will make it rain upon the motherland. Yeah, He's watching us. The hope we truly share. Born set to the band of Africa. Come on. Once and I'm in one Hey. Come on, Lucas. Say He's watching us. Yeah. He's seeing us. Come on. It don't matter from the heart we truly share. One more time, I must say, come on. He's watching us. And He's seeing us. Come on. It don't matter the words we share, we truly share. Hey, hey, hey. Come on, Don. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. My boys are dying. Some of them are poets. They have written 1,000 poems, but not one has earned them a living. Open mics don't open the door when the landlord closes your house. My boys are dying. Some of them are singers. You may or may not have heard their songs before, but every mealtime they eat their own songs and choke on their lyrics. My boys are dying. Don't let those Nike shoes fool you. There's nothing correct about the heart of a young man who has nothing but his Nike shoes. My boys are dying from being misunderstood. Understand that my boys will do anything for money. Understand that sometimes the modern woman has a watchman, CCTV cameras, and a mobile app that will send people to fix anything in her house, so the only security she might need from her man is financial. My boys are dying because their pocket is light. My boys are dying because their heart is heavy. Maybe if they had Susanna Weir's voice, they would sing their heart out and just watch it beating right in front of them. My boys are dying from heartbreak, from disappointments. They're not asking to win all the time. They're asking to win at least this one time. My boys are dying because the universe has refused to accept them as stars. Now they're earthbound, bound to be art. Art is soil. Soil is sometimes called dirt. My boys are dirty. My boys are dying from walking in sewers and garbage points without proper gear. Their family fears, but it's what steers are leaving, believing tomorrow will come, but the day is leaving. My boys are dying for being boys. My boys are dying for being bus boys, for being in a group of boys. My boys are dying before they are fathers. My boys are dying because they are fathers. My boys are dying to go farther. They've got bomb lyrics to bomb your TV, check the temperatures. They are walking degrees. Their mind is a state of art. The state has refused to stage outside. My boys are dying inside. Ask the jail warden. My boys are dying from duodenal wounds, from intestinal wounds. My boys are dying outside. My boys are dying because our leaders are clashing. My boys are dying because our leaders are lying. My boys are dying because integrity is dying. My boys are dying because they have nothing to go back to. I know boys my age in the streets going back to back, blaming a whole country for not having their back. My boys are dying because they lost hope. My boys are dying because their mind is at war. My boys are dying and all our local leaders keep doing is lying to fly Russia, Dubai. I wonder what to buy while my boys cannot afford a bus back home. My boys are dying. In my country, a public hospital is where our leaders visit when they are well and refuse to go to when they are unwell. My boys are dying, and I'm not the one to save them. Give it up for Don. Give it up for Lucas. Give it up for Dave. Javé on the drums. Baluka on the bass. Thank you. When I write a poem about a woman, I'm not writing on behalf of a woman. I don't know how it feels like to walk at night, scared for your body, scared of your body. When it's late and I need to go to the shop, I just leave my phone in the house and I'm safe already. How is he your man if he hits you? How is he your man if you run from your friends for protection? How will he hold you if those hands are the same hands you run away from when you want to run away from scars? And if you can't trust his hands, then how will you trust his ears when scars inside you need an ear? How many blows on your face before your wedding dress doesn't blow your mind anymore? Yes, his love used to leave you breathless, but tonight his hands will be on your neck choking you. That's the only way I see you breathless. You say he used to love you. You say he still loves you. So you're stretching your hands to a porcupine, hoping his iris will find a way to teach his pupil to look at you as a ladybird. You say he hits you because he's a man. What if he hits you because he's not man enough not to? Yeah. Lucas, say something. Come on.
Things are gonna get easier.
Okay. Okay.
Things will get better.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Things are gonna get easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Come on.
Things will get better.
Okay. Now I want to say something, then Don will translate it for you. Yeah. some bass, please. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, come on. Yeah, Javed. Hey. We'll change this country word by word, beat by beat. Hey. Dave, bring us back. One last time, one last time. Give it out for Don. Give it out from Baluk on the bass. Give it out for Lucas. Give it out for Dave on the keys. Give it out for Javed on the drums.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mufasa and the band, for that wonderful, wonderful performance. As we get underway in this year's Democracy and Human Rights Festival, organized under the partnership of Power 254, Sauti ya Wanjiku, Siasa Place, Creative Spills, under the coordination of Forum C through the WWP, Wajibu Wetu program, and under the support of the Swedish Embassy. This year's theme is centered around democracy and rights under lockdown, some of the challenges that we have been facing. And of course, the Democracy and Human Rights Festival is an annual event where various stakeholders involved in the attempts to consolidate democracy, to create gender equality, and to promote human rights. This is an annual event where stakeholders come together to share experiences and chart ways forward that can enable the country achieve better consolidation of democracy, human rights, and gender equality. And we do not have much to discuss because, first of all, we would like to go through the opening remarks. We would like to have one of the members of the planning team, Mr. Michael Owino, to come and give some opening remarks. This is a gentleman from Power 254. And immediately after him, we are going to have Mr. Jackson Obara, who is the Forum C regional manager, who will give his remarks, and subsequently will invite the Swedish ambassador to Kenya, Her Excellency Caroline Vicini. And therefore, I would like to have the pleasure right now to invite some opening remarks from Mr. Michael Owino from Power 254. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, MC, for the day. My name is Michael Owino. I work at Power 254, and I'm one of the coordinators in the bigger planning team that we have under the guidance of Franciv, the team that puts together this Democracy and Rights Festival. Mine is to, first of all, appreciate those of you who are here, wale ambao wamejitokeza kwa leo. Thank you very much for coming. You can clap for yourselves for coming as well. Appreciate ourselves. Those who are here physically, and we also have those who are watching the event live. We also want to appreciate your presence, and I ask that you attend all the remaining parts of the event. What I wanted to put across is that there's a lot that has happened with regards to democratic rights and human rights in this country, and the space of the creative sector. All the organizations that are put up together, planned the Democracy and Human Rights Festival, have invested in the creative sector. And this is a sector that we believe strongly that has potential not only to improve the livelihoods of our youth, so that our boys might have money in their pockets, just like the opposite of what Mufasa was saying. But if we invest in the creative sector, there's a potential to put money in the pockets of the boys and the girls as well. But over and beyond that, the creative sector has a special place in advancing democracy and human rights in any country. All movements everywhere in the world have been driven by the creative sector, and we believe this is something that even here in Kenya, even as we think of new ways of governance, we have BBI coming up and the rest, we still have the creative sector have a big role to shape how this country moves forward in the next, moves forward with regards to how we will govern ourselves. But anyway, mine was not to go deep into the festival. I know every day we have different themes that we'll be unpacking, that we'll be sharing, and that we'll be having different perspectives on. So that will come later. But for me, for now, it is my pleasure on behalf of the coordinating team to welcome the FRAMCIV Hub Manager for East Africa, Mr. Jackson Obare, to now come and officially open the Democracy and Human Rights Festival 2020. Karibu sana, Mr. Jackson. A hand of applause as he comes in, please.
Thank you so much, Michael, and happy to be here this morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jackson Obare, the Regional Manager for Forum C, East and Southern Africa. And this morning, we are here to start the week of Democracy and the Human Rights Festival for this week. And I want to take this earliest opportunity to welcome the physical audience as well as our online audience that is following these events. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, also want to recognize Her Excellency the Ambassador of Sweden to Kenya, Caroline Vicini, for participating this week's event by also going to give us our opening remarks. So it's my honor and pleasure to welcome each and every one of you as we discuss pertinent issues affecting democracy, human rights, and gender equality in Kenya. And at the end of the week, we culminate it with awarding artists for the Activism Challenge Award 2020 for the work that is done in this country by various artists to promote social change. I'm truly inspired by the diversity of the nature of partners that have participated in planning this event, together with Forum Civ, and of course with the support of the Swedish Embassy in Nairobi in our Chibuwetu program that is working on democracy, human rights, gender equality, and elements of supporting environment and climate change. As we all know, the whole world, we are facing a pandemic that has come to disrupt the aspects of social, economic, and political spheres in this world. And Kenya is not excluded from that pandemic. And this pandemic has also brought about a public health crisis that requires support from all global actors. And the priority for all the governments and all actors is to save life. And as that, the crisis becomes unmanageable, and we all know the developments being made for the vaccine to be in place, it has also created or brought human rights and the democracy issues under lockdown. As the theme for this week, Democracy and Human Rights Festival, democracy and human rights under lockdown, we all know what has been happening. I want to talk about 4 points as we open this festival. Why democracy during the times of COVID, and we know democracy and the human rights are important objects in and of themselves. But at the same time, they are also important enablers of human development by helping create conditions in which people can thrive. So human development, as we all know, recognizes people as real wealth of the nation. Making progress on human development therefore benefits from the empowerment of people, and the democracy and the human rights are fundamentally important about empowering people. So our work we do in Forum Civ through a Chibuwetu program has supported diverse partners working to advance expanded democratic space, respect for human rights, and promotion of gender equality. And we all know how important development cooperation has been in promoting this kind of work in this country. And they have also participated in upholding human rights, not only, as we know, it's a moral obligation, but also it's a universal value as enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Our work on democratic governance supports the right to human dignity, the right to have a say in decisions affecting one's life, and the principles of empowerment and equity. As Forum Civ, we stand for empowering people globally to have power to effect change, and through working with different development cooperation actors, we are also able to push this agenda in our work in this country. And through strategic partnership, we also realize that the work of advancing democracy, human rights, and gender equality, among other development perspectives, also requires strategic partnerships. And in this way, we have worked very closely with more than 30 partners in this country through the Chibuwetu program, and also having our back donor, Swedish Embassy, as a strategic partner to ensure that we push the agenda desired to have social change. Sustainable Development Goals number 17 talks of enhancing strategic partnerships. And in this way, we'll be able to make a difference in the work that we do. Then how is the future looking, and what have we learned from past Democracy and the Human Rights Festival? We foresee youth participation becoming a critical component of ensuring that we have social change that is sustainable. And as we recognize, youths are leaders of today, and we also recognize they will be partners of tomorrow. Inclusivity in all forms of human development will also guarantee that our democratic gains will be sustained, and elimination of all forms of discrimination to ensure that young women are also protected, to ensure that all the gender-based violences that take place are eliminated, and we want to work together as a team to eliminate all this. So what have we learned as we have been undertaking Democracy and the Human Rights Festival on an annual basis? And one of the most important lessons perhaps from our work in this area is that there is no size fits all for promoting democratic governance. Context defines the path to follow to accountable democracy. And even in Kenya as a country, as we also have the regional governments, we know that they are as diverse as they are for 7 county governments. And therefore, we are not expecting to have a one-size-fits-all solution to ensure that there is accountability in governance matters. Strategic partnerships is key to success of a growing democracy of our country. That's what we have been able to learn. And young and older democracies alike share the common objective of achieving more effective, accountable, and responsive governance. Such systems expand people's freedom and the choices, enabling them to live lives they value. Growing inequalities, as also it has been demonstrated by the pandemic in many counties in Kenya, and the unequal fulfillment of human rights undermine democratic governance. So there is a pressing need to overcome problems of exclusion and marginalization. As we all know, every day in the media, we read reports of horrific and distressing human rights violations in this country. So we must motivate us to work together with the state and the non-state actors in respect of human rights. And therefore, inclusive governance requires citizens to be able to participate in meaningful ways and to be able to make their voices heard. As we engage in this week's various topical discussions, I want to ask you to diligently participate and all contribute positively to the growing democratic space, gender equality, and the human rights in Kenya. Let's keep the momentum. Thank you so much, and I want now to take this opportunity to invite Her Excellency the Swedish Ambassador to Kenya, Caroline Ticini, to give her opening remarks. Thank you so much, and welcome, Caroline.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. And my name is Caroline Vicini, and I am the Swedish ambassador to Kenya since the beginning of September. Can you hear me? Maybe the control room could give me a message if you hear. Very well. Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm very happy to be with you this morning and at this annual event that is organized by Forum Civ, which is, as you know, a Swedish NGO under the Bajibu Betu program. And this program is funded by the Embassy of Sweden here in Kenya. This festival is an interactive and engaging platform that gathers practitioners and relevant stakeholders to share experiences, exchange knowledge, and examine good practices in the defense and in the pursuit of human rights, gender equality, and consolidation of democracy. And the Swedish Development Corporation, that has been active in Kenya since its independence, has always been characterized by its rights perspective and its focus on people who are living in poverty, and to give them opportunities to create better lives for themselves and for their families. It puts the human being at the center of the attention and emphasize that realization of human rights and democracy are fundamental to development of a nation and a country. We find that the pluralistic civil society has its value in and of itself. People have the intrinsic and inalienable right to associate and to express themselves in any way they wish. But the pluralistic civil society is also crucial in empowering groups and individuals, and it contributes to the societal discourse and to, with time, sustainable change. Sweden has always and will always continue to support Kenya's vibrant civil society, and we enjoy very much the partnerships we have with a multitude of civil society organizations. Democracy is a multifaceted concept that embracing political and social rights, ranging from free and fair elections to accountable and transparent governance and civil society influence in the governance of the country. Therefore, this calls for concerted and coherent efforts and approaches among all stakeholders. This annual Democracy and Human Rights Festival is an example of joint efforts that provide a dynamic platform for dialogue, reflections, and mapping out alternatives to pursue these key issues in Kenya. This festival gives voice to human rights defenders, civil society, but also to artists, to media, and to cultural actors from both the grassroots and the national level. It aims at facilitating an exchange of local experience, and it demonstrates and recognizes efforts that are already making a difference. Efforts that often remain unknown to the general public, who in the end hopefully will reap the benefits. This year it's themed Democracy and Rights Under Lockdown. The festival presents a total fusion of arts and cultures, as we already have discovered, in civic engagement. It is effective embodiment and melting pot of civil society, art, media, and cultural actors in democracy and human rights. What I find encouraging is that this fusion will be reflected in all sessions, where there will be a mix of media, art, and cultural approaches that will be integrated not only as conversation starters, but importantly demonstrating that culture, media, and activism are powerful transformative tools for social change. Also, another important factor is that the heart of this festival is the engagement of young people, both in planning and participation, in order to ensure that they are not left out, but instead that their voices are amplified. And with the very young population that we have here in Kenya, it is extremely important that young people are allowed to get their voices heard. Young people now and in the future will play a big role in how our world adapts to existing and emerging challenges. With youth comes energy, innovation, and optimism, if there are supportive environments and opportunities for them to express themselves. This might lay the ground for major positive contributions and for a demographic dividend, not only for Kenya, but for the continent and for the world. The COVID-19 pandemic has threatened the lives and livelihoods throughout the world, but has also created a political crisis that threatens the future of democracy. Democracies all over the world, Kenya included, are struggling in dealing with the info pandemic following the trails of COVID-19. Without compromising citizens' rights and the core societal values of social justice, inclusion, and tolerance. Kenya, as a country, is headed into another political season. If the political season never ends or starts in Kenya, I'm not so sure, actually. And it's important to underscore the need to continuously defend democracy amidst these challenges. The vital role that the civil society plays in mobilizing and organizing for action must therefore be sustained. The call to action is for all state and non-state actors to work together as a strategic partner in order to protect freedom of expression and respect for human rights, ensure accountability and living up to clear commitments to protect human rights regardless of race, ethnicity, and gender. Respect for the rule of law. And there I want to add the respect of non-violence, which is, I think, one of the most important things to preserve here in Kenya is a peaceful society. I welcome you to have a fruitful and in-depth discussion on the current political situation in the country, possibilities of social change through innovation and creativity, healthcare challenges during COVID-19, which should be particularly important to discuss today when we hear that nurses and doctors are going on strike, how to increase gender equality and protect sexual and reproductive health and rights, or whatever you think is necessary to discuss today. Thank you, Forum Civ, for providing this platform as you so tirelessly and innovatively do. And thank you all for the continuation and sharing of your important work today, throughout this week, and in the future. It is very inspirational, and the Swedish Embassy is very proud of being a part of this festival. Thank you very much and enjoy your day.
Let's kindly have another round of applause for the ambassador, Swedish ambassador to Kenya, Her Excellency Caroline Vicini. And we also had some remarks from Mr. Jackson Obare before that, who is the Forum Civ regional manager, as well as the one of the planning committee members from Power 254. And I think the ambassador underscored the importance of having multi-stakeholder partnerships as we tackle the question of promotion of human rights, gender equality, and the consolidation of democracy. If you want to join us, we are on the hashtag Democracy and Rights Festival. This year's theme being democracy and rights under lockdown, some of the challenges that we have been facing, and I am certain that many of you are quite aware of that. So we are going to have now a performance once again from Mr. Mufasa, who is also noted for his credentials in attempting to promote democracy, human rights, and gender equality. And subsequent to that, we will be having our first panel, which will be moderated by Mr. Danish Odongo, and will be tackling the issue and masking the complexities around BBI. So now I welcome Mr. Mufasa and the band to give us some entertainment, and then we will head straight forward into the panel. Karib sana.
Of all creation, bless these our land and nation. Deliver us from ignorance. Deliver us from ignorance. Oh God of all creation, bless this our land and nation. Deliver us from ignorance. Deliver us deliver us from ignorance.
Failures of an election, the search for the savior of mass crucifixion, sleeping with the enemy, that's a dark erection. We don't own land these days, we inherit taxation, a poor libation, because I'd rather live in a past where a peace a gone generation than be here where a few people can pocket a whole nation. Even when I'm fly, I'm just a part of someone's trouser that needs no revelation. We have been warned and wounded, but there's no emancipation. It's just a song by Bob Marley that we sing when we're a drinking nation. But you're not a free nation. We're a nation that lets people steal for free without discretion. Question: are we the generation that could not generate the power to be enslaved? I called the police, I said, please, the government is stealing from the government, do something, please. The policeman said, I'm sorry, this line of land is barren, you can't plant that information here. I'm not to park here. What's driving me is what to park in the mental sphere. Education without quality, maternal mortality, police brutality, or is it people above using the police to rule in brutality? Your crop of leaders killed agriculture, nothing to do with fertility. In fact, to call them a crop of leaders is to abuse productivity. Money doesn't grow on trees, but trees are disappearing because the religion of money is growing. The executive is a believer, and people have learned to worship. And I dare say to you, from the beginning, truth has been silenced. Expose the parts of you that are not exposed to lose your part. But I have to ask, are we the generation that cannot generate the power to be enslaved?
Oh, God of all creation, blessings our land and nation. Oh, God of all creation, oh yeah, blessings our land and nation. Deliver us from ignorance. Deliver us from. Come on, hey, come on, hey.
Are we the generation that could not generate the power to be enslaved? Thank you very much.
Wonderful performance once again from Mr. Mufasa. Can we have him, give him a little round of applause? And he asked a question that keeps ringing in my head. Are we the generation that cannot generate the power to be enslaved? And I think that ties really well with the Democracy and Human Rights Festival, because abuses are generally, the attempts to limit the enjoyment of human rights, to limit gender equality, to limit, the consolidation of democracy. And so we are going to have having a panel discussion right now, tackling the question of, or rather unmasking the complexities around BBI. And we are all familiar with the BBI, and we are all familiar with the processes that have been ongoing regarding that subject that have happened over this lockdown period. And so I would like to take this opportunity to invite the moderator for this panel session, Mr. Danish Odongo, who will thereafter have the panelists come up and lead the discussion over the next couple of minutes. Remember, you can join us on the hashtag Democracy and Rights Festival. This is an annual festival that is supported by the Swedish NLC, and this year also partners with Power 254, Siasa Place, Sauti ya Wanjiku, and Creative Spills. Karibu sana, Mr. Odongo.
A round of applause for the fantastic MC for the amazing work that is done. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I think I have the most powerful panel right on this day to discuss the complexities of the BBI. Put your hands together for Mr. Frederick Okango, who's the SG, Third Year Lands Kenya, and also a proponent of the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020. Put your hands together for Frederick as he joins me on the panel discussion. And of course, the second panelist I'd like to invite is Wilkista Duma. I've known her for a very long time, really powerful woman and a political commentator, and was once the SG of a political party in Kenya. She'll tell us the name of that political party and what she does right now. Makofi wake tafadhalini. And of course, Melvin Thogo, please put your hands together for the student leader from the University of Nairobi School of Law. She's joining us to give us the perspective of young people. I like this panel because it's really, really representative. And last but not least, not last, put your hands together for Mr. Michael Aurora, who's the Linda Katiba Movement Task Force member. He's joining us. He's replacing Boniface Mwangi, who was supposed to join us, but I sent apologies. Makofi kwa Michael Aurora tafadhali. And of course, you know him as the man who was the face of the Constitutional of Kenya 2010 face, Mr. Bob Mkangi. He's a constitutional lawyer, and he'll be coming to give us a perspective about the constitutional law and that entire process. Put your hands together for Bob as he comes to join us. All right, before we start, I'd like to just hear from the audience some of the facts about the BBI, something you know or what you make of it. I just like random answers. You can lift your hand and then I can see you, and then you can just shout and give us your answer. I just want your opinion about the BBI. The audience. All right, yes. Just stand briefly to tell us your opinion about it. Okay. Counter-revolutionary and realistic and truly leading us to nowhere. A second opinion, thank you. A second opinion. Michael, I'm going to choose you, the sacrificial lamb. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And just to start us off, Mr. Frederick Kango, you've had the opinion and perspective of people like those. But of course, we remember you from the Punguza Mzigo initiative, but now you are a proponent of a bill that is likely to blot our weight bill and is going to add like, well, almost, are we told about how many members of parliament are going to be added if this bill passes?
Yes, mic check. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Danish, and the organizers of this event. Actually, I'm very glad to be here to share with the public on matters constitutional amendments, and particularly unmasking some of the complexities around, this bill. Well, in the interest of disclosure, I also want to disclose that I am a proponent of constitutional amendment, and if you remember, we were the first political party that initiated the Punguza Mzigo Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2019. Now, you have asked a very valid question, and I've listened to some of the random opinions from the audience. Constitution of Kenya is a living document, and we must breathe life into it. For those who have read the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, if you go to the Memorandum of Objects and Reason, it says that one of the reasons is to make implementation effective, and particularly talks about ensuring that some of the issues that have been a challenge with implementing this constitution are addressed. One of them is the gender equality, and I'm glad that it's an aspect of human rights. The other one is to ensure that we strengthen devolution and institutions like IBC and Parliament. But I want to say this: there is no proper time of amending the Constitution of Kenya. And Bob Mkangi and team, when they drafted this constitution, they did provide for provisions in Article 255 to 257 that actually touches on the roots. And in those articles, they do not say that you should amend it in August, in September, in the morning, after lunch, or midnight. However, it is important for Kenyans to know that now that we are talking about human rights, there's a very good aspect of human rights that is emerging today on personal data. And in Article 31, the provisions of rights to privacy, now that is included so that we can have that as an aspect of human rights. Number two, it is also important to understand that why is it that we are not able to implement the Constitution of Kenya 2010? That is the question. It's not about BBI. It's not about Punguza Mzigo. The question is, does the Constitution 2010 that we have today work for us? And if it works, does it work to the level of development that this country has undergone? Now, here are three principles that, in my view, as Frederick Okango and a proponent of constitutional amendment, believe that when we amend our constitution today, will make it easy for implementation. Number one, the implementation of 2/3 gender. Remember, the people that have suffered most in that aspect are the women. And this is a standard, it's a universal issue, Sustainable Development Goal, number 5 of the 17, it is there. Number two is the principle of fair representation on the equality of vote. That there are areas in this country that today are underrepresented. It's a fact because of population that is growing. And number three, the issue of population quota in terms of representation. And lastly, how do we now ensure that with the advent of devolution, now we strengthen devolution so that some of the rights that we are talking about in this annual event today are now achievable not only at the county level, but at the village level. Issue to the human rights on water, security, health, those are issues in the Bill of Rights. And I believe, Danish, that with implementation, there comes also an amendment, because the only way to implement is also to amend for effective implementation.
Bob, he's saying that you guys designed a constitution that has a lot of challenges in implementation in 2010, that now we need to amend it, perhaps to realize some of those aspirations we have. How true is that? Are we making the COK 2010 a punching bag for failure to basically implement, for example, Article 43? What stops us from implementing it, social and economic rights?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to appreciate the organizers for inviting me to this forum. A very timely, very important period in our lives as Kenyans, but also as humankind, because we are discussing this topic, masking the complexities. Perhaps we live and ask ourselves, are there complexities in the first place of BBI? But again, within the broader perspective of the lockdown, which is very, very, very well articulated and captured as a theme of this year's festival. So we must look at those two parameters. And on that, I would very much hot on the heels of what Fred had said, that the Constitution of Kenya, as we crafted it, and I want to remind Kenyans that we crafted it as per the opinions of Kenyans, as per the voices, the feelings, the aspirations of Kenyans that were presented partly to us, but primarily to the Professor Guy-led Constitution of Kenya Review Commission. So the voices that Kenyans gave at that time did eventually emanate in what we have as a Constitution of Kenya 2010. And one of the things that Kenyans talked about, which Fred alluded to, is that they did want a document that, yes, we live with it, we build upon, because the Constitution, yes, is a living document, but it doesn't live on its own. It has to be built on. You need scaffolding, you need a foundation, you need people, because the Constitution, people talk of it as a social contract in some ways, which means that Kenyans, for instance, come together, they talk about who they are, the society they are, and how they want to live together, first of all as Kenyans, and then within that scope, how they want to govern each other and make decisions. And that's how it becomes a social contract. And in that breath, it's also a living document, but also, as I said, a document that lives because we breathe life into it through our actions. So the implementers are Kenyans. It's not the document that implements itself. The document just captures. It's like if we come here and we talk, there are going to be minutes at the end of the day. There's going to be a report. So the report captures, or the Constitution is the report of what Kenyans want and strive to have in the future as they move forward. So it's the Kenyans themselves who implement the document. So when you look at the Constitution of Kenya, if I may direct myself even to the first aspect of how it is very unique in ensuring that it is implementable. It was the first document, first constitution in the world to actually create an implementation commission that had a program that said that within a certain space of time, we must come up with pieces of legislation, in essence, programs and policies that were going to ensure that the wider perspectives of the Constitution are implemented. And why did Kenyans think this was proper? Because they knew, like what the 35th US president, the late JFK, said, things don't just happen, they have to be made to happen. So when you look at the Constitution of Kenya, if something has not happened, it is because we have not made it to happen. We as the proponents, the owners of that document, the people who put those words there, have not made it happen. So it is not a document that's unimplementable. It's a document that different players, different eyes, different voices that have looked at it globally have said, hey guys, you have a wonderful document here. You have a good document. You look at the comprehensiveness of its Bill of Rights. You look at one of the first documents to have a chapter on leadership and integrity. You look at a document that Kenyans said, we are living 1963 and we are saying we are the sovereigns, we as wananchi. We are looking at a document that introduced devolved government, fiscal and power. money, and power for people to say what should happen. We have a document that touched on the ills that were ailing Kenyans since 1963. For instance, the issue of tribe. And I want to make the point that tribes are not the problem. It is the tribalization of our politics, because we socialize ourselves to the extent that we make decisions based almost on religious, dogmatic, grounding, and that is tribe now. So we make our decisions not because of the ideas or the reasoning behind certain issues, but just because I belong to a certain cocoon. And that's one thing Kenyans wanted to get rid of. And that's why incessantly in the Constitution, right from the first word, "we the people," to the last word, in every chapter you see something that talks about how we should get rid of the divisions that we've had because of tribe. I'll go direct to for instance, when you look at the executive and the national executive, there are directives around making sure, for instance, the cabinet is engineered to show the face, the geography, the diversity of Kenya. If you go to the public service chapter, that is the same. If you go to national security, if you go to public finance, if you go to the Bill of Rights. So what has stopped us? The words are there. What has stopped us as Kenyans, apart from our actions? What has stopped, for instance, the president in engendering a diversity, if it's tribal, regional? What has stopped Parliament from enacting the mechanisms to make sure that there's gender parity in Parliament? Is it words or actions? What has stopped county governments and governors from utilizing public funds in the proper way that will benefit every child, every woman, and every man in their counties? What has stopped Kenyan leaders from siphoning when people are dying? Siphoning, resources that are supposed to help Kenyans live. We are talking about lockdown. And when I'm talking about this, I think the presence is very much alive in Kenyans' hearts and minds. Is it the Constitution that has told Kenyans that do not provide PEPs? Kenyan leaders do not provide PEPs to doctors, do not provide masks to wananchi? Is it the Constitution? So by the time, even we, I think most of us are religious. And when we pray, we believe that you pray to God, but God will ask you, before he gives you what you want, what did you do with the resources that I gave you? So we have to tell Kenyans why the words, why the social contract that we said on August 27th, 2010 does not hold fort.
Absolutely. And I think you ask and raise very fundamental questions. And I'll bring Michael Aurora, who will be representing Linda Katiba movement. And first of all, Michael, I need you to pick it up from where Bob has left. One, is the Constitution the punching bag? But secondly, what does the Linda Katiba movement stand for? What are your specific asks for this specific time that we're talking about the referendum and stuff like that? And I'll come on to the next one then after that. Michael.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Aurora Michael is my name. I am part of the co-conveners of Linda Katiba. I am also the Secretary General of NAK Kenya Party, which, if you know what our stand has been with the BBI, it's a natural continuity to then be part of the nucleus for Linda Katiba. I also speak as a Kenyan and governance and democratic governance practitioner in this country when I'm not doing all these other things. A good question, and I think there are more questions to be answered typically by the people who are hell-bent on destroying the integrity of Constitution of Kenya 2010 than those who are opposing their shenanigans. There are questions that we need to ask whether when there is a difference between leaders and our Constitution, whether we should change the Constitution or we should change the leaders. In 2013, Kenya found itself in a very unique situation where people who did not believe in the Constitution had the obligation to implement it. And we have seen the systematic plunder, mutilation, destruction, disrespect, disregard of the Constitution. Being as it may, Linda Katiba, and I think it's probably the simplest way to look at it, we are not really opposed to BBI because it's a non-entity, it's neither here nor there. It's a bunch of people hell-bent on derailing the constitutional promise of this country. So we say we are pro the Constitution, we are not anti-BBI. BBI will come and go. It will be defeated by 7:30 a.m. On the day the two brothers choose, and we will move on to bigger things. I think we say Linda Katiba, implement the Constitution. We are persuaded, and I think many Kenyans are persuaded, that the problem is not the Constitution, the problem is the leaders. And if we implemented the Constitution faithfully, and I'm not saying, like Bobby is saying, that there's no perfect Constitution in the world. When we passed this overwhelmingly in 2010, there was an acknowledgement by both sides that it is not a perfect document, but it represented the broadest, largest expression of the dreams and aspirations of Kenyans at that point. So it is sheer ukora for anybody to say that there's a problem with the Constitution, it's a living document, it must be changed at noon, midnight, breakfast, lunch, etc. But a Constitution is not a gig. It's not a relationship you can walk in and out. It's a social contract that must have a very good reason why we should depart from parts of it. So we are convinced at Linda Katiba, first, that there's an overwhelming majority of Kenyans out there who are asking, what can we do? There is an overwhelming majority of Kenyans who are in the no camp, not because no is defined by the personalities who have spoken against the shenanigans around BBI, but that no represents the collective aspirations and anger of Kenyans who have seen the last 10 years a constitutional document being implemented more through mutilation than implementation. So we thought at Linda Katiba, and in this simplest form, it is not a secretariat, it's not a movement of people and owners, it is an attempt to join the dots, to ask, like very many people asked after the press conference on Sunday, what can we do? Whether it's across the clergy, young people, businesses, political parties. And we said, it is just enough at this point to commit and declare your stand against the BBI. And therefore, in that action, to be firmly counted among those who are willing to put everything possible on the line to defend the integrity of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. So I think looking at that, we are at a moment where if you listed, and I like asking this question, of those who are hell-bent on this BBI disaster, what is BBI seeking to address that is not outlined exhaustively in the Constitution? Number two, what does the Constitution say about that which BBI, and to what extent have we implemented what the Constitution says, even as a framework? So if you look at the question and the lies that are being sent around by the two brothers and their army of fellow liars, devolution and funding. This is a government that has worked every step to undermine, or a regime, let me say, a regime that has worked every step to undermine the spirit and letter of devolution. And let's talk about money, because you need money to move the big rocks, to bring roads, to water, services, etc. And I'm not saying this because governants have been the most amazing human beings in utilizing those resources. But we cannot anchor our judgment and mutilation or disrespect or respect of a constitution based on people who are passing. Governance, each of them have only 10 terms. We are being told about 35%. You and I know that the Constitution sets a minimum. It does not say you can actually give 90% to counties. So it's a non-issue. We have not even met the 15% minimum. Those guys, the cartels, are promising you 35%. They have failed to deliver the minimum the Constitution talks about. women of this country who got some of the most amazing gains in the Constitution of Kenya 2010 because they organized powerfully and effectively. The political class will tell you the people did not elect more women. So yes, we have a crisis in parliament. And for the record, we support the dissolution of parliament. We think the president should stop these shenanigans. He has no power to do anything about it. If it was not out of constitutional courtesy, the Chief Justice would dissolve parliament. It's just a courtesy that he takes that role as head of state. The women, if the voters of this country did not elect women, there are more appointive positions in this country. I'm going to demonstrate the lack of political will and belief that women matter and should be on the table. The president has the prerogative to appoint, disappoint, and many people. Cabinet is unconstitutional as we speak, based on gender 2/3. Does that require the voters of this country? Cabinet, where he sits with a bunch of men and a few token women, is unconstitutional. Parastatals in this country, how many of them are chaired? And you see executive, that we are now ruled a lot by executive orders. Just looking at parastatals. Embassies, Kenyan missions abroad, the face of this country. Do you see women even making the minimum 1/3? So I'm sharing this to tell you, the problem is not that they will keep it. The youth question. This government has appealed a court judgment that agreed with, I think, Siasa Place, Power 254, on the question of National Employment Authority. We are still employing people who will be dead by 2030, Vision 2030, to preside over issues of people who will be alive in 2060. And those people, some of them are illiterate. The National Employment Authority is led by a woman who has seen the best of her days, nothing personal, has no vision completely for the youth of this country, yet unemployment is a youth issue in this country. Young people organized and went to court and challenged that appointment. The government of the Republic of Kenya is appealing that ruling. In other words, they think old people should still have a place in this government. So I'm just picking three: devolution, 35%, women, youth, to demonstrate that this is Ukora. Finally, Danish, and the most important one for me. So let's assume all these amazing things were somehow true. You know, women will get 50-50. In NAC Kenya, we believe in gender 50-50. So it's not 2/3. In principle, it's what we think should be the bare minimum. And so let's say 35% to counties. Women will be everywhere, 90%. Young people can be in the civil service, in cabinet, and every other space. Which other promises have we been given? Whatever it is. Danish, given the track record of the Jubilee and the political class for the last 10 years, what assurance do you have they will implement the things they are giving you as sweeteners? And they will not, after passing this damn thing, pick the number 600 people they want to add in parliament and in leadership, etc., and choose cherry picking the things they will implement, because that's exactly what has happened. Oleskia wapi? What evidence do you have they'll actually implement the things they are telling the young people we will? Because they have no track record of truth telling. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Wow. Okay. You know, the Jubilee government does not have a track record of truth telling, Wilkista. And I know you've done a lot of political commentary, and you've also done a lot of work with political parties. And I want you to pick from the truth as general. First of all, you, in your opinion, do you think there are complexities about the PPI? One. Two, do you think it's a silver bullet, some of these challenges that we talk about, especially the truth as gender rule, that once we pass the Constitutional Amendment 2020, then voila, we are good and good. 50-50 or truth as gender rule is met in every single part, whether it's in embassies and everywhere. Do you think it's a silver bullet?
First of all, I want to start by appreciating that the Building Bridges initiative is a process, and so is democracy. And even when you consider Kofi Annan's words on democracies, they are built over time, they are built by people, and they are processes that continue to evolve. Now, the question as to whether this is the ultimate solution or the process that yields the ultimate solution, of course, no process is without flaw. So I expect to be a flaw in the entire process, as we have witnessed over time. And as a young person who's been in a political party and considering now the two-thirds gender rule, and also, but I'd like to mention that I retweeted with the women who brought forward some of these recommendations to have gender parity at the ballot, because we have seen as a country that gender parity is an issue, and bringing it as a nominative, or rather now the thing my co-panelist calls tokenism, is problematic because it weighs down on the gains by women and makes women look like they do not have intrinsic or even instrumental value. And that is why gender parity has to be solved at the ballot, in my own opinion, and as a strong conviction that I have. And I don't think we should be downplaying that game, because this means that, for example, in Senate, women have half of the vote in Senate. So someone asked a random question that, do you think in Kenya, if we were to look at the issue of electricity and water, if women sat to decide that, what would they have decided? The current government decided electricity was more important. But the women will tell you that water is more important because of the kilometers you have to walk, first of all, to get the water. Second, the importance of water in terms of our day-to-day livelihoods. So this is why, first of all, we cannot downplay the role of women, for example, in deciding where the 35% of resources will go. And also, as a result, deciding now in the National Assembly where the 65% of the resources is going to go. So I think political parties also play a key and important role in terms of ensuring gender parity. And this is not something that political parties over time have taken seriously. If you look at the structure of political parties in terms of even their decision-making body, which is the National Executive Council, if you look at the number of women in there, I mean, it's a very small number. And most of the time they, relegate women to the women leagues. That's where now they expect women to make their own decisions, as opposed to having women in the organ that is most powerful in terms of making decisions. And when you look at also the role of political parties in terms of nominating women, first of all, to run as credible candidates, and second of all, to the nominative seats which provided for in the 2010 Constitution. I mean, that is still very, very small, because the argument again is the women who are nominated based on tokenism, and not the fact that they are credible and able, and of course they have the merit to carry forward a national agenda. So that is, for me, in my view, I see that is one of the very important things that the recommendations have been made is focusing and is going to solve. The other thing in terms of nominating women in party primaries to have women run as credible candidates is problematic again in political parties, because when you look at it, women historically have faced a lot of issues in terms of there are barriers or deterrents to them running for political office. And resource is one of the very, very important things, and one of the major hindrances that do not allow women take part in democratic processes, and in this particular example in elections, which is also problematic. So there's actually an incentive and a sanction as well in the Building Bridges to have political parties nominate women to run for office, and having not more than 1/3 of either gender. For me, that is very important. And at least it gives hope to the young women who are saying we want to run for office, because young women running for office now know that I'll run on merit, I'll put up my best, my best front. And if that doesn't work for me, that I get elected to office, then I know I can be nominated based on the fact that I garnered maybe the second highest votes in this particular constituency. And how is that not a win? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Wilkista, for that succinct feedback on that. Melvin, to you. I have a lot of passion for university students. 2018, we ran a campaign across all the University of Nairobi campuses, plus many more. And what we discovered is a stuff of horror, broken down hostels, missing marks. Last year, there was a huge campaign by young female leaders, like the Me Too campus campaign, showed a lot of sexual gender-based violence. The issue of how many people in this country sit for KCSE and how many make it to the university under the Joint Admission Board. What happens to the rest that stays? You, as a young person, as a student leader at the University of Nairobi School of Law, do you think the BBI covers your issues and solves some of those problems that you're currently facing in the university?
Thank you very much, Danish. There's one thing that we need to know. Writing about our problems, highlighting our strengths and our weaknesses is not solving them. Because if we have to go to every office, if we have to go to the website and look at all the documents, all the policies and everything that has been written about the youth problem, the education problem, student problem in this country, there are a lot. But let's look at, have all these things been able to be addressed? What are the issues that have been addressed? Right now, I think being a youth in this country is, you do not know. You do not know whether to be happy. You do not know whether you have a future. You just do not know what your position in this country is and what your position will be tomorrow. As a student leader, there's one thing that that is ever challenging to the students, and that is the issue of school fees. I think growing up, probably everyone in this panel and everyone out there was told that hard work will be rewarded. So you put a lot of effort, you pass your KCSE, then you come to university. When you come to the university, you need help, then you're told there's the help. But then the help is there and everyone, even your dean will tell you, go apply for the help. But the inconsistencies in this help, who is supposed to get this help? Yeah? If you're a very marginalized student, how can you access this help? Because I feel sometimes, in as much as the fund is there and it is a good initiative, the structures that are there are not helpful. Like, we should, maybe the same way that now we want to address that there are some very marginalized groups, then probably we should also know that there are very marginalized students who are coming to campus, and then start from there. A student who's very marginalized, do not put them in the same pedestal with a student who can actually afford some of these things. And then start addressing the issue of help there. And then the other day, just a few days ago, they said that they're going to reduce the help loans. We understand that the economic situation in the country is wanting. But if you are decreasing the help loan, at the same time you're increasing the school fees, what are you trying to see? Is education really for everyone? Are you trying to tell the youth to get education so that in future they can get better jobs, they can be employable and all that? Because where are they going to get them? Addressing the issue of, that is issue number one, the finances in education. Addressing the issue of sexual violence. You see, people think that this country has a Sexual Offences Act, that we think because people are always talking on Twitter, on Facebook about their sexual experiences and all that, you think that you have addressed the issues. But these things are deep. These things are really affecting people inside there. So what are we encouraging the youth to do? Because that's the question that we should be asking ourselves. Are we really encouraging these people to be those strong whistleblowers, to be out there talking about these experiences? And are those mechanisms, this mechanism, the laws, are they really addressing these issues? Because we could have a very beautiful document, we could have a progressive document, but these issues, they are as they are. They're just written, but they're not addressing these issues. Yeah. So the issue of being a youth, especially in my position right now as a student, you'll be graduating in 2 years' time, and then you're coming out here. You want a job. There's so many things, and I will not say that the BBI is not addressing or is addressing. Our fear is, you have documented everything. You have written, you have searched, and you've even involved us in writing these things and recommendations. But what are the chances of these things being implemented? How am I sure that today, if I pass the BBI, if I vote for it as a yes, I'm going to get that 4-year help, the break, and then even if I'm going to get that break, how sure am I that I'm going to get it maybe if I'm a marginalized student? Yeah. So these are the issues that we need to address. Writing about them and implementing and solving these issues is a totally different thing.
I think I think most of those issues students face are usually administrative and policy kind of, and I think if we address administrative issues like, for example, hostels, the issues of sexual and gender-based violence in campuses, most of them will be solved, and that is even within the VC and the Ministry of Education policy docket. Frederick, I want to come to you. You're giving this thing the baptism of an entire century, and you're dipping it in the oil of acceptance and saying that let's pass this thing. But the problematic clauses based on, in my opinion, one, the one that puts the responsibility of the governors to choose their deputy governors, to give their deputy governors CC designated posts. You know how they've been relating for the last 8 years of deputation. Number two, you know very well that there's a recommendation for the NIS to do vetting and not Parliament anymore. Yet Parliament is the legitimate representation of the will of the people. There are also issues that then will increase the wage bill considerably by increasing the number of representatives. And of course, I know you're talking about the 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. Do you think that just like other people are saying that we may still need to remove some of these things off the Constitutional Amendment 2020, or you think it's perfect the way it is and we just pass it and deal with the consequences later, even if it chokes us?
Thank you so much. Hello, thank you. Now, first of all, before I address your question, allow me to just react to what my fellow panelists from Linda Katiba said. I think as an avid Swahili speaker, Linda means protect, which is very good. However, I would have advised them to instead tekeleza, because we are talking about implementation. Their argument is on implementation, but they are protecting. You're like a security guard guarding a store of maize that is rotting for 10 years, you know? Now, number two, my young sister here has aptly put it. The issues of young people in terms of help, and I am aware that there's an aspect of giving the beneficiaries of help, a moratorium of 4 years to start paying. But that does not solve the entire problem, because there are also majority of young people who are not benefiting from the help. However, the establishment of the Youth Commission that centralizes the challenges that are affecting the young people as established in that document. And again, the composition that now comprises all the young people. The 7 commissioners, out of the, other than the chair and the 6, 4 of them will be young people. That means that commission shall be run by the young people. So they have the power as a constitutional independent commission to effect the changes that the young people want, as young people, number one. Number two, there's the issue of 2/3. And I want us to look at this devoid of emotions, devoid of activism, but constitutionally and as a matter of fact. And my sister, Duma, has aptly put it, that the against that the women have seen in this document. For me, if the issue of 2/3 gender is a global challenge, and corporates today are measured in terms of ensuring that their sustainable development goals are pegged on that goal number 5 of the 17. Kenyan Constitution provides us as a human rights under the Bill of Rights, Article 27, because the law, people are equal before the law, and women and men shall enjoy that right, including its protection, including the opportunities of socioeconomic and political. So let's go back to the politics of it. How are women of Kenya, by achieving the 2/3 gender principle, are enjoying the opportunities that come with politics? She has given an example. Before I go to your question, today, in the villages, in the wards of Kenya, there are women walking 1,000 kilometers to go and look for healthcare. There are women walking 100 kilometers to go and look for schools for their children in Turukana, Masabit, Wajir, Kakelo, Kokwanyo, Homa Bay, where I come from. Why? Because the issues in economic and social rights in Article 43, it is very difficult to measure the achievement. What has the document done? The document now has brought that as a criteria in dividing revenue. so that when you're dividing revenue that is going to the county, it's used as a measure, as a criteria. Number two, has created the World Development Fund. That shall be used for developmental expenditure. And in that, it also measures the achievement of those rights that I've mentioned. Second, lastly, let me go back to what you have asked. Dennis, you see, the UN considers women a very great aspect in achieving development, and for that matter, sustainable development. Now, the provision in ensuring that women are represented not only at the national level and also at the county level has been achieved this way. Number one, remember in that bill proposes that the governors now may consider the opposite gender when they're running for that position. So if you are a governor, a male contender, your running mate should be a female contender. And therefore, to that level, it solves that issue. And also at the Senate. But you have asked me, when the governors now appoint the CECs from the composition of, MCAs, we have had a very bad experience with some of the members of county assembly because people consider them that they are not the most affluent in the society. I think there's a wrong argument. The argument here, it is up to the people who are now complaining and saying they are Linda in Katiba instead of Tekeleza to choose the right leaders right from the MCA to the presidency level, because that is the only way that now we shall be talking about Tekeleza Katiba. But before we do that, we must amend to ensure that we accommodate leaders can now Tekeleza and implement. Number two, these CECs that forms part of the executive, of the county executive, the constitutional wording, and Mukangi will tell you, use the word may. It means the governor can look at the composition of of the county assembly, and by the way, this is through vetting in the national assembly, in the county assembly. If they don't meet the criteria, he doesn't need or she doesn't need to appoint the CECs from the county assembly. He can appoint or she can appoint from the technocrats. The word may there. Now, the National Security Intelligence Service, you have asked that. We have seen before, and we are talking from experience today, where the current National Assembly have vetted or purported to vet people with questionable characters. Questionable. And they have embarrassed this government, including the president, where some people have got a backlog of corruption and economic crime cases in court, and they are being fronted to go and serve this country in high-level positions. It is a shame. Today, we are talking about the amendment to the National Intelligence Security Act, so that you expand the vettable positions such that every public service or every public officer or state officer shall now be vetted also by the NIS. Now, the proposal does not limit National Assembly from vetting. If you remember, the control of budget as established in Article 228 shall now be vetted by the Senate. If you remember, the Youth Commission, the commissioners shall now be vetted by the Senate. And there are also others that are still being vetted by the National Assembly. So, in my view as Frederick Okango, I believe constitutional making is not a one-day event. It is a process that originates from experiences, from negotiations, both political and social and economical, and therefore, where we have arrived today, we can actually audit the Constitution of Kenya 2010 through the Auditor General report. Just read it. In equal measure, the 47 county governments, in one way or another, have misappropriated funds. What does the bill proposes in terms of curing that? Expeditious mechanism of dealing with prosecution, trial, and investigation of issues to do with Chapter 6, conduct of state officer, leadership integrity. That is what the law says. So for me, I want to dive into this debate without emotions, without activism, but with facts. And the facts therein are, Kenyans today agree, and this is the consensus that everyone agrees, including the pseudo opponents, they agree that Kenyans have challenges. They have got the burden that they are carrying, the burden of socioeconomic rights, the burden of corruption, the burden of historical injustices meted against the women of Kenya. How do we solve that? You cannot today, it has been tried, effect the principle of two-thirds gender in elective positions. I agree with him when he says appointive. President Kenyatta can appoint, but today in elective positions, you cannot without amending the Constitution of Kenya. Why? Duale tried it. Shole tried it. So many people have tried it. It has failed. I urge Kenyans, let us dive in this constitutional debate without emotions and without activism, because Kenyans watching this debate today want to know the truth. They don't want to see how best we can actively participate. They want to see how best they can be convinced that whatever is being discussed is for their benefit and not for the benefit of a few individuals.
Thank you so much.
I think...
Actually, I wanted to give you that opportunity. Bob, I'll come back to you. But Michael, even in addition to your point, I know you've done a lot of work in mainstreaming youth issues in the entire country. So we have the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. We have the National Youth Council. We have the policy on youth that was passed in 2019. We have the National Youth we have the National Youth Service. We have all this youth stuff. And the only thing we're not doing is that we're not mainstreaming issues of the youth in this country. But now we want to create a commission that will magically solve this problem. So as you answer those, I need you to also address that as somebody who's done this.
My friend is very passionate. In fact, he's mentioned emotions and activism more prominently. I like 2/3 of his response, which is fantastic. And I want to validate his emotion and activism, because there's nothing wrong. We are brought up in a generation that you are told your emotions, don't be emotional. Women have been told this forever. Yet there's nothing more emotional than sitting in your house, you're facing eviction, you have no food for your children. It's personal. So let's not delegitimize emotions. They are important. And let us not delegitimize activism. We have an activist constitution, because this country had been thrown to the dogs for so long. We needed to overhaul the system. We have people who have disagreed with the constitution, because this constitution was forced on the ruling elite that have held this country hostage, the women, the young people of this country. You asked a very interesting question. You've listed them. That, what do I call them? It's a ghettoization, if you may, of institutions. You know, create commissions, create institutions, create anything except doing the actual job. In the last election, we were given something was thrown against to the youth again. We know the story, the same script. Let us not excuse bad manners and bad leadership. It is okay. My fellow panelists might not know that there's a category of appointments in government that NIS, without fail, already does vetting for. So back to my point that BBI is engaged in shenanigans. What is it fixing in the constitution that is not fixed? The president appointed or selected his deputy president. He didn't need chapter 6. The president, when good people of this country ran the red card campaign, when Waiguru was the top of talk in town, the president, in his first cabinet, he lost or sent home more than half of it. The president has the prerogative, and he has every machinery to know that I cannot appoint a chicken thief and send them to parliament and then terrorize parliament to approve them whether or not. So what am I saying? The president does not need NIS in all the bad judgments that he has brought forth and punished this country with. So NIS, again, it's making a proposing a wrong solution to a problem that we can fix. Chapter 6, it's not for lack of rules, Danish. It's not for lack of rules. It's not for lack of institutions. We have a political elite that has no commitment to constitutionalism. So Linda Katiba. And I know we are limited. Not everybody has the capacity to understand linguistic complexities in crafting and messaging and framing. So Linda Katiba means to protect, and the byline is implement the Constitution. Linda Katiba, like I said, we started, we are actually not convinced that there's something fundamentally wrong with the Constitution. So first and foremost, we need to protect the integrity of the Constitution, and we need to rally and support and commune with Kenyans who believe that we need to protect that Constitution. And how do we protect it? Even if it's just protecting it and defeating BBI on its own without doing anything else, that is a battle worth waging in this country. It is an effort worth spending. Then we say in protecting the Constitution, we need to go back to implementation. To what extent? This country, 10 years, when everybody else in the country was celebrating 10 years and looking at where we've come from, the misses, the opportunities. Do you know this? The government did not have a single function to even do an audit of Constitution implementation. Such a momentous document. Finally, we can argue about institution. We can give youth, we can create institutions for young people and women and persons with disability and the marginalized. 10 years we have refused, the political elite have refused to implement the marginalization fund as envisaged by the constitution makers. Equalization, fund. They've split it into Smith rents and created all technicalities, yet the spirit of marginal equalization fund was very specific geographically to specific parts of this country. They have brought the argument that, the colonial argument, that we would only invest in people and regions where we can get return. Yet government is the master leveler. Government must be there for those who have and those who do not. It is not the private sector. The private sector can say, we will invest where there are returns. If the government starts to behave and argue in the same, then we leave Wajir, we need northern Kenya, we leave those islands off Lake Victoria in the forsaken parts of this country, we leave Lamu, and we ask them, just work harder, run faster, you will catch up with us. And the moment Lamu becomes economically viable, we will bring the roads. But right now, we will not. That is a problem. What is our fundamental disagreement with the idea and spirit of BBI? We think this country is not headed in the right direction. And the people responsible for driving us to a better future, if not a better present, their diagnosis of the problem is off the mark. In fact, they are the problem. And therefore, what they propose to fix is not. Does it surprise you, out of curiosity, that we had a handshake, which I fully support? The spirit of the handshake, to bring down the political temperatures, to stabilize the economy, to bring the country together after a very problematic election, the handshake, which grew into something else, into a committee, into something, and then changed the 3/4 of the constitution to please two men. Do you realize something weird by the fact that Raila Amolo Odinga, who started a constituency around electoral justice, that electoral justice was dropped off the BBI and is not one of the most important or prominent issues? That the vote, the assurance that when Kenyans wake up at 3 and go and vote, that their vote will matter and that it will be counted and the servers will be open for scrutiny. And where there is dispute, it will be resolved in the most amicable of ways. They dropped electoral justice. Does it take you as a surprise that the most important thing that brought the handshake together, how do we secure this country from future handshakes? Will we have to have another handshake and another BBI in 2028? What are we missing for those who are supporting this? I finish by asking my most important question. Who tells you all those things they promise they will do? They are the same monkeys who have no DNA of constitutionalism. They are wired in impunity. So we have to reject. If you will benefit directly from any of the positions, it is okay to go and support BBI. If you have been promised a deep state minister of something, that is, I can't argue with the personal completely. But if you just want a better Kenya, where you all have a fair chance, and your children and your spouses and your clan days and your husbands and your children and your everybody has a fair chance, BBI definitely does not present that vision. And I agree with you, my sister. There's a lot of good stuff being promised. But they're being promised by the same heartbreaker who has broken your heart 17 and a half times. And they're now saying, I swear, this time it will be different. Thank you.
Reminds me of a running joke of words from men from a certain part of this country. Bob, as you respond to Fred, now I need you to ground us back. They're changing about 12, they're amending about 12 laws. And then there's this story of the signature collection. Is it anchored in law? Is this process legitimate? One. Number two, are there better ways of amending multiple types of laws like that? And then there's this question of, options of either, you're going to tell us what to choose among those 12 amendments. Is there a possibility that can be realized in a referendum? Let me paraphrase my question. What is an ideal referendum question? What is the ideal referendum process? Is what we are seeing legitimate or not?
Thank you very much. Legitimacy is an issue that's very subjective. Subjective, but also when you look at en masse subjectivity, popular subjectivity, that is what eventually gives you a picture of whether you have legitimacy or not. And legitimacy emanates from various factors. There is definitely the legality of the issue. There is the issue of the socioeconomic context. There is the issue of the political context. There is the issue of the drivers or the proponents or protagonists. So all these issues, most importantly, are looked at by the very, very key holder and wielder of the power to decide whether there is legitimacy or not. And that is the mwananchi. Fred began by saying that when Kenyans crafted the Constitution, they availed the opportunity for amending it, knowing that as the river flows, there's a junction they'll want to bend in a certain way and change the flow in another way. But the Kenyans again did not say when this should happen. But it's not that they meant that it should happen every time and all the time that somebody comes up with a proposal. In fact, the measure of the legitimacy of an amendment process is what is tested by the proposal and the process thereof. Like the debates we're having right now. We've had, Okoa Kenya, mentioning the prominent processes, which was defeated by technical reasons, but again looked at within the broader political contexts. We have Okoa Kenya, Punguza Mizigo, again technical, but also process-wise, but again within the broader socio-political process. And now we have BBI. And that's why Kenyans said, hey, you know what? We have this document. It's not perfect. None is in the world. You can change it. But we believe that you must change it to improve it, to make it better, to make the philosophy better. For instance, if it's the issue of power. And power is this beast that I think human beings have been trying to battle with ever since two human beings came together and decided, yes, we can live together as a society. And so the politics of who wakes up at this time, who goes hunting, who stays in the cave, That's where the game started. And when you see the evolution of power globally and different societies, has been that you're pushing power in terms of ensuring that you democratize it more. That is why the Americans at some point said, to hell with King George, and came up with the system that they have. And when they came up with the system that they have, they also said, power cannot reside in one institution. There'll be the will that Congress will emanate. Once Congress emanates, we'll have the executive, the people who do it. And if there's a collision between the people who do it and our will, we'll have the judiciary. We'll have the person who will come and look at what is the will of 190. Have these people executed it in the proper way? And then say yes or no. In the UK, you had the monarchies or the monarchy. But you look at the history and how parliament came to be and parliamentary politics, it was actually in the bid to decentralize power from the central, as it is used to be said, and still is, a divine given power. So in Kenya also, when we look at the process, we must ask ourselves where Kenyans landed in 2010 and the experiences that they had on this issue of power, and what we are proposing now and what people will propose. Are we pushing it towards a more decentralized? Are we planting it in more centers of power, or percolating it again within one centripetal axis? So the legitimacy comes from all those issues of what is being discussed, what is being proposed, is it progressive, what is the socio-economic context? And again, I come back to the issue of right now, we have the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of us have been talking about this not even before BBI2 was released, in terms of when the pandemic hit, and saying, hey guys, yes, in terms of not mentioning categorically that a constitution or the constitution can be amended at this time, but it means that we also have room to look at that context of when we are making these proposals. What are these proposals? Are they proposals that are going to surmount the problem that people have at that moment? Huh? But finally, the legality of it. And you asked about the signatures and the way to amend. And I think those are issues that fortunately have been taken to court. Because the Constitution, again, is ambivalent about some of those. And in the proper way that allows Kenyans to make those decisions, to ask themselves, when we are amending, or even a team, and fortunately we have Freddie and his experience with Punguza Mizigo, when they were thinking through that journey to eventually arrive at the document that they had, the amendment bill, and collecting the signatures that they did, where that journey started, what was the process of getting the issues into the document? Were those the only issues? Were there other issues, but probably they felt that these are the key issues? So at the end of the day, it's an issue of formulation. It's how you package what you have. For me, I believe that if you look at a document and you draw or prod out different issues, and understanding that a constitution is a tapestry, it's a pattern, it's an instrument where one article, one clause is beholden to another, that you are able to discuss it and synthesize to very key issues, even probably one, because at times it could be one issue that if you change or amend, unlocks everything else. So there's that thinking also. So yes, the courts will tell us whether you can have the 260 something articles in the Constitution amended by an amendment bill, because if it says you can have multiple, then it means I can come up with a constitutional amendment bill that starts with the preamble. We propose that the preamble is amended and go as section Article 1. We propose that Article 1 up to the last article. So those are key questions.
Okay.
So there's that issue of how it is synthesized, how it is formulated, but also let's not forget the socio-economic aspects, the legalities of it, but at the end of the day, it is Mwananchi who will decide whether it is the proper time or not.
Benish, I would like to hear from the lawyers before we finish. Yeah? The tyranny of law.
No, just a minute.
What is a popular? What makes a popular? Is something that
Okay.
I've had pop up quite often. What makes a popular initiative? Because DPI has been positioned as a popular.
Okay.
What they did looked to me, and I'm a non-lawyer, as something that was.
Michael, I get your question. So because in the interest of time, Bob, you'll respond to that. Melvin? Bob, I hope you've noted that down. Yes. And
Okay.
We're being poetic with answers. Just Melvin, go on.
So just to contribute a little bit on the issue of whether legitimacy and legality, I think the Constitution provides for, the 255 provides for all that, that have they followed the right process of going forward and collecting the signatures from the people? And I think they have. In as much as you'll hear people talking that the way it was collected, and by the way, let me make it clear, this is not me either endorsing or opposing it expressly, but if we trust our institutions as they are now, then we're able to trust that the IEBC will legitimize or illegitimize those signatures. Because we have so many things that are being said, but we have no proof. So let's give that institution, which is the IEBC, that chance to do that. Another thing, who can institute a referendum or this process? A parliamentary process, or I believe a popular from maybe the public. Being that I am no supporter of Raila, because I think I'm going to talk of Raila because I've heard everyone mentioning two brothers or two men here. Raila is not a holder of office. At least as a Kenyan, I believe so. At this point, he's not holding any office. So he's a member of the public. Him and his cronies or the other people can actually institute that process. They can come forward and say, see, I have talked to my people and this is what we think. They can do that. So being this whole thing being legitimate, yes, it is. Is it legal? Does it have legal frameworks? Yes. From the Constitution. If at all sasa tunalinda katiba, it is yes. And ama tunatekeleza, I think it is yes.
Okay, before we come to Frederick, Wilkista, there's a question I've always had. We are always told as a nation that if we change Section 2A, we'll have a nation. If we yote yawezekana bila Moi, we'll be fine. If we just change the Constitution 2010, we'll be fine. If we just amend it one more time, we'll be fine. Is that the way to build a nation? Do you think that's why we are not yet a nation, that we don't have enough laws, enough institutions, we have not enough amendments? That's why we are not a nation. That's why we killed each other in 2007, in 2017. Many deaths happened. I was a journalist, and we covered that. Mass graves. Will this now stop that and be a nation of love and hope and future? And I can go and build in Muranga. Muranga can come and build it there.
So it is my belief that any venture that seeks success is 80% systems and 20% people. For example, if we ask ourselves, why does corruption thrive in Kenya? It is because we have made corruption a system. It is a culture for us as Kenyans. Therefore, the 20% who are the implementers, in this case, the citizenry in Kenya, make it now a thriving venture. Now, to bring the discussion back home, as a people, are we able to live without principles, rules, or laws that govern us? The answer is no. If you look at the African culture, right from the days where we had the Council of Elders deciding and things like that, we provided the people with a culture or principles that govern how people behave. If we do not have that in Kenya, or even in the olden days, it would mean that it's the rule of the jungle, where the strongest will thrive. And we appreciate the process that we've gone through as a people, right from the days where it was the rule of the jungle, to the elders deciding, to now the constitutionalism that we have going on. And it is not a perfect process. As I had mentioned earlier, democracy is where we build as a people for ourselves. And in terms of even asking whether this process, is legitimate and why, I don't know why we are making it the two brothers, because I see in the document, it says the promoters are the task force members. It doesn't say the promoter of the bill is Raila Amolo Odinga or Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. So I think also we need to correct ourselves as we talk about that. So I think in terms of whether it is the ultimate solution or whether it is the only way that we can live as a people, the only way we can live as a people is continuously improving systems, structures, and rules or laws that govern us, because we evolve. We are not the same every day.
Kista, I'm not letting you off the hook. Before we even go back to Bob, are you a close-knit supporter of the BBI?
I believe it doesn't matter whether or not I support it. As a young person who speaks for other young people, I believe it is my responsibility to let them know, or rather educate them as to the provisions of the document. Because last week, it was a week-long conversation on the Building Bridges initiative, and a number of young people arrived opposing and proposing. But we had a mock debate where you had to present the facts when you're debating as to whether you oppose or propose. They had to learn the provisions that were in the document for them to be able to say that I do not support the 7-year tax relief because I think that A, B, C, D. And one of the young people actually gave a really good example, which was a zero rating of taxation on motorbikes and bicycles, around 205 or 207 thereabout. That we can now see that even my cousin who's in Shags, who's probably 24, a guy, has a motorbike, he goes to work, he has his own small structure, he has maybe a wife, 2 kids, 24, by the way, in Shags. They're much better off than us who are in the metropolitan places, thinking that now our education is better than them. What we are looking at in Article 43 of the Constitution is, do I have a roof over my head? Do I have food on my table? Can I afford healthcare? And if you look at the zero rating of taxation at that time and what it did for the young people, because it is youth that operate the border business. If you look at what it did for the young people at that time and looking at where they are right now, I mean, it is gains for the government in terms of even the GDP and how much per day the border sector contributes towards the GDP, because it's about 500 shillings per border per day. So you can imagine how much this has contributed to the GDP and to employment and to the betterment of livelihoods. So I think also for us, even as we have these debates, I think we need to interrogate the document beyond the personal gains, because sometimes we look at it from the point of view that as a young person in a university, what am I getting? As a young person, probably in civil society, what am I getting? As a young person who's a citizen of the country, what am I getting? We need to ask ourselves, which young people are benefiting from this? Which women are benefiting from this? Not you. Alienate yourself from the conversation and look at the greater good.
So I'd like to just make a recommendation that please, if you can take a minute each to make comments, then we go to the plenary. That would be fantastic. Start with
Thank you. I just want to respond to something, and I know Bob Mukangi will be addressing it fully. And I'm doing this as one of the drafters of Punguza Mzigo and one of the people who went through that experience all the way to the county assemblies. And therefore, the BBI, as it follows the popular initiative, chances are very high that it follows the same process. Now, you raised an issue of signatures. It is a fact. People have gone to court. And at the risk of discussing what is under judicial consideration, I would want to evade it by speaking the facts about it as somebody who was experienced in that aspect. It is a fact, IEBC is the custodian of voter details. IEBC is not a custodian of signature of Kenyans. They don't have it. They don't have a depository of signatures. However, IEBC has the details of the voter from the county all the way to the polling station. And during Punguza Mizigo, and especially during signature verification process, which is a very important aspect because it can drop the process or catapult it to the next level. They looked at the details of the voter. That must come out. Number two, those details must capture as they are with IEBC. If you registered in Homa Bay County, it must be in Homa Bay County. Your ID number must match. Your polling station must, your constituency must match as is there. Number two, there's the issue of, is it a popular initiative or a parliamentary initiative? Or what is this document about? And that's why, if you listen to me, I've been referring to Constitutional Amendment Bill. A bill in a popular initiative is a formulation from general propositions, Article 257. That's what it requires. Now, it talks of a bill, not even bills, and therefore it is one document. And that underscores the fact that when you are going through a popular initiative, there must be a bill. When you are going through, a parliamentary initiative, there must be a bill. So it is the bill that we must discuss. And that's why today, we're now narrowing this discussion into a bill, not into a general imagination. No, into a bill. Now, look at this, and here's the deal. When you talk about constitutional amendment, and I'll go back to what Bobby Mkangi said when I started, the reason why Bobby Mkangi and team gave Kenyans the provisions in 255 to 257 is so that when any Kenyan, and here any Kenyan means a member of parliament, the president, the deputy president, and we, the ordinary, feels that there's an aspect of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 that can be made better, that can be done away with, that can be improved, then they initiate that process through the guidelines either 256 or 257, but of course guided by 255. In this aspect and in this process that we are talking about today, it is largely a popular initiative, right from the legal facts that the composition of the bill is a product of general formulations or proposals that came from the people. Number two, it is a popular initiative from the fact that it has been endorsed by the public. We are told that today there are 5 million Kenyan voters who have endorsed it. IBC will verify that to tell us that. However, that fact alone scores and qualifies it as a popular initiative. However, there are other issues that will be canvassed in court. Now, you cannot go for a wedding and get the lady and the man, become parents, congratulate them, take them gift, visit them, and enjoy their company. When they give a baby, you rebuke the baby and say, that baby nikiwete. You will be hypocritical. I have seen. And I would want to urge the hypocritical fellas who congratulate the handshake. Because today they can easily walk around Rome in this city, make noise because of handshake, but they don't want to accept that this baby, we can give this baby milk, we can even take this baby and adopt, we can take this baby to school, we can feed this baby. Today, we have seen such level of hypocrisy. And I end by saying, the level to which we are today can break or make this country. But I'm glad that when Bobby Mkangi and team made this question, there's a wording in the preamble that says, we the people give unto us. The people gave themselves this constitution. It was not given to them by anyone. And therefore, it is the same people that can decide today, do we need to amend or we don't need? It is not about Linda Katiba. It is not about BBI. It's not about Punguza Mzigo. It's about the people of Kenya. If anything, Implementation in the memorandum of objects discovers that you can always make implementation easy by amending aspects that have become historically difficult. I go back and say, don't guard a store full of maize and pretending you are guarding it, but it is rotting for 10 years. You are an hypocritical fella.
I didn't know that the BBI had conjugal rights too. Bob, go ahead.
Thank
you, brought a baby.
Thank you once again. You talked about poetry. Very many years back, I was on this stage reciting poetry, so I'm happy to be back. Thank you for that. And my friend Fred again. My background is child rights, and one of the questions I've been posing about the implementation of the Constitution, BBI, without, is, and this is my observation, that we Kenyans delivered a baby in 2010. 10 years later, they look at the baby and say, this baby is malnourished, has stunted growth, has learning difficulties. And then they say the solution to this is to have another baby. Because my analysis is that when I look back at these 10 years, this baby was not given milk. This baby was not fed well. This baby was abused in several ways, including not obeying court orders, including starving counties of resources, including, wanton disregard of the Constitution. And a question, and one of my colleagues, Abdirashid Abdullahi, did pose when you say celebrating 10 years. I found it difficult to celebrate. And I used the term marking the 10 years. That probably his analysis, and I think it's a piece that appeared in one of the dailies, and his analysis was that, unfortunately, the baby that was delivered in 2010 was handed over to, again, to use poetry and stage aphorisms. And this is something most of us acted as children in school to the evil stepmother. That unfortunately, the Constitution of Kenya 2010 was handed over to a government that did not want that document in the first place. And we can go back to their rhetoric and their behavior. It's not me talking. You can do your research. And so we are where we are today with this child who we are crying that is malnourished, has stunted growth, has learning difficulties. And we are not asking ourselves what has been our contribution towards this. We are blaming the child. Yeah. And our solution is we need another wedding so that we can have another child. And that is what Kenyans must examine and ask themselves, these conjugal rights, as you put it, every 10 years, yeah. Are they the ones that are going to deliver what we want or not? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wilkista.
Very quickly, because I think we are making the conversation sound like it's something that is not very reachable to the common man. Quoting the articles and all that. Some of the people in the audience cannot relate to the articles that we are quoting here today. And talking about same monkeys, same business, and I go back to 2007 and how, quote unquote, the president-elect at that time was sworn in before even an hour elapsed of him being declared president, and some of the people that aided in that process. I mean, it is very clear to us who are the key players during that time. And also coming back to now the 2013 elections, where we even had some of the elites who were saying, protect Katiba, who shared the map of a Kenya that was going through secession. I mean, it is very sad to have the same monkeys, I mean, come back and tell us now that this thing is not good. You look at someone like the deputy president who was in the no camp during the whole conversation on the 2010 constitution, and now even plugging into the analogy of the baby, he was like, let's abort this kid, right? And we decide to have the baby anyway. And now when we're giving the baby nutrients to grow, it's like, let's not even give the baby nutrients. So that is an example of some of the people my co-panelists are saying that, you know, are the same people who did not want it, that the constitution was shoved down their throats as the people in government. And just to share a quick personal story of the 2007 post-election violence. I was in Kisumu at the time, and usual day I was outside. I mean, Raul was leading and we were all happy, you know. At that time, that was where I was inclined to politically. And suddenly, I don't know what happened, but the numbers changed. I don't know if there was a blackout and then the numbers changed. I was a teenager at the time. Tarakanithi lingia, by the way. So, kidogo, people are screaming outside. Before we know it, tires have been heaped on the roads and they're burning, you know. And at that time, I was standing outside and watching. And one of the people told me, "We mtoto burudi kwa nyumba. Kwanza, what tribe are you? Because your complexion doesn't communicate that you are Luo. So anything can happen to you in this environment." And I remember at that time, I was schooling in South Coast. So I had to travel from Kisumu to South Coast, where my school was. And by the way, Makiu in South Coast and other regions around it, there was not as much fighting. In fact, they resumed normalcy very fast. So by the time I got to school, everyone came out of the classrooms. Everyone, it's not a joke, this is a true story, a personal experience. Because they were like, this one has made it out of the war zone. Because the numbers apparently they had, none went through. They called parents, none went through. But this communicates, even my whole journey between Kisumu to Mombasa, my parents cooked, because I left Kisumu at, I think, 6. My parents cooked and did not eat until I got to Mombasa. And right now I can say that I can go to any part of the country and not feel like I am unsafe because of my complexion or because of the language that I speak. And as a young person, I do and feel like I want to take pride in my tribe and my culture. It is not bad. As he had said, tribe is not a bad thing, right? I should take pride in my tribe. And also looking at how political parties organize. I mean, looking right from the days of the Young Kavirondo Association, Young Kikuyu Association, and the GEMA, we've always organized according to our ethnic groupings. And I think the problem is not in the organizing. The problem is in how we radicalize people to the negative during the organizing.
You know, that organization is not systemic in us. It was planted in us.
Actually, Bob, I wanted to remind Wilkista that there's only one man who seems to be allowed in this country to change his mind. If he joins Kano, it's a master stroke. If he shakes hands with Uhuru, it's a master stroke. But if Ndi changes his mind, watermelon. If Kalonzo changes his mind, watermelon. I think the Bible says that it's only a fool who does not change his mind.
The Bible says, let Baba be Baba.
Can we put on the lights and go to the plenary kindly? So as we are coming to this question, I'd like you to lift your hand, and if you have a comment, please make it brief. If you have a question that directed to one of the panelists, you can actually mention them by name. Please put on the lights for plenary so that we can and then the microphones. I don't know if the microphones Uku. All right. So we have the first person there. You can stand up, and if you can be vocal enough, that would be good. I don't know whether you have microphones here. Put on the lights here kindly. Oh, thank you so much. Or tell us your name briefly and the comment or the question you have. If it's direct to any of the panelists, tell us.
Thank you. My name is KG Heavyweight. I'm a rapper and a poet, so this is a short directed to like the whole panel. And I'm just from the ghetto, so I think systematically we are corrupt And in this country, there's too much poetry and French that is made to like suit your ears, choose this. So we vote in like the same corrupt land grabbers, the same thieves and hooligans, watermelon puppets and willy-nillys as I can, like venye naeza ita hawa say. So ikizungu mingi manze hapo hivyo, chezeni na rada manze, mnatuchanganya. Juu huko ghetto unatoka, boy hata hezi jua jo hizi vitu mnasema ni gani, the babies, the do's and don'ts. So constitutionally, chapter 15, independence commissions and offices, chapter 1 of the national constitution, sovereignty and supremacy, chapter 6, leadership and integrity, commissions, public services and funds to the people. So inamaanisha hata mimi kaa hapa ni venye unaambiwaga story ati hapa earth manze we kula tu sukuma alafu tukienda binguni utakuwa unakunywa asali jo na maziwa alafu hautakufa. It's the same thing. We are voting in the watermelons, the same very land grabbers that we know in this country.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. Chezeni na rada jo.
Pia ucheze na rada.
Yo kitu inani affect.
Come through to your story mtaani.
Kitu inani affect.
Organize. Invite us. Next. But it's usually good to ask, what is it that I'm doing as an individual? Yeah. Tell us your name, your comment, your question if it's direct to any of the panelists.
Okay, my name is Lilian Kagure. I come from Mukuru. First of all, the gentleman forward next to Bob, may you live long. By the way, unaongea reality. Sijui ndo tukupatie, si kama youth tukupatie ngumi mbwekisi ama ngumi moja. Si ndio?
Amonchoke basi.
Amonchoke, si ndio? This one goes to all of you lakini. Can you get back to reality? Kwa sababu imekuwa by the way kama tuna hide behind wanawake. Mimi ni feminist, mimi ni mwanamke, yes. Lakini ukipata mahali mtu anaweza jibaya lipstick na hizi buy pads, women we have to think. Alikwambia one thing about this BBI over thing. Ukiuliza introduction tuseme BBI ni nini? Nilikuwa nikwambia ni slogan fulani si mayouth huenda nao tau unapata mama mboga na muuliza mboga ni BBI ama tuende kiaje, unaona? Because we don't even know what it is. Unaona? When it comes to wale watu reality, wale watu ni big number pale kwa wood, reality pale chini. Si hatujui BBI ni nini. Tunamkanga tu tunasema BBI kila time. BBI ni hii, BBI kulala, BBI kuamka. Wanawake, when will we just continue hiding in the shade of kila time tuongele wanawake? Ikikuja ni BBI tukiambiwa wanawake watapatiwa hii, we are going to vote it. The other day when you speak about the lady, the one who's doing a law, yeah, you said easy kura, easy signature, whichever way they come, it doesn't matter. Nikapitia place nikienda job, niliitwa tu zile za tumekuja mpaka na washosho tunatembea kwa barabara. Hebu kujeni msaini hizi signature za nini za BBI na waliingia wakasign. So zikuje tu wenyewe ile namba imefika ya signature zenye zinatakikana. They don't even know how they got it. They didn't even know how they signed or why they signed this. Nini the BBI. I want you guys to get back to reality. Wacha tukae pale down. Hebu muongele reality mali si tunatoka. Mali si tunatoka Mukuru ni mtoto anaripiwa kijana na we don't talk about it. Mali tunatoka Mukuru enyewe amesema tunalala njaa. We don't talk about it. In Mukuru or any other slum or any other place kuna wasie wamelokiwa hao and we don't talk about it. Because the more you speak English, the more people down here don't know what you guys are talking about. The more you really have to talk about reality because reality ni painful. Reality hapa iko real mazi. Sisi BBI ikuje isikuje, constitution ya 2010 ilikuwa iko, we don't even know. Tunaamkanga tunasema tunakujanga wakati ni votes, watu wana vote, sisi ni watu wa government. Wakati tusha vote, tunaranga tunaunda ka government ketu hapa. That's why ikikuja ukisikia njaa, you don't tell the government, you tell the person sitting next to you. Unaona? Si tunakuangana kagava ketu. Tukimaliza kuvote, kagava kana kujanga ketu hapa sasa. Kenye kana kamril. Ukisikia njaa, unatana hapa. Mimi nasikia njaa. Sina place ya kulala. Mtu huyu amefanya hivi. Mtu huyu ni mgonjwa. Unapigianga mpaka yule mtu mwenye unajuanga anajua Panadol ni nini. Cause hakuna yenyewe medical attention hakuna. Unaona? So at least if they get back to reality. Now let us stop you fanciness ya hapa juu. Get back to mwananchi wa chini. The real person hapa. The person we are calling public, the person we are calling mwananchi hapa. Mashinani, the real name. Okay. Let's talk about it.
Thank you. Sanitize the microphone and pass. Anybody else has a comment? You're right there. 1 minute, please.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Okay. My name is Okaka Rogers, and I'll try and not be emotional and delve into the facts. So on the issue of BBI, my question goes to the pro-BBI team. Kuna issue mnabonga help. Is it a must for us to go and vote for a referendum for us to have help subsidized for the students? And the other thing is this: watu wangapi of all the youths wenye wanakuaga hapo wanapata hizo help? Tunasemekana 70% of the Kenyan population size is between the age of 15 to around 24 years. Hao wote wanaweza tosha kuingia universities. Some of us wenye hata tulikuwa tumefikia threshold. There's so much bureaucracy into giving out those help opportunities. Baka yani, lots of us are locked out of these opportunities. Mara enda kwa chief, kuja na signature ya pastor, kuja na signature za guarantors watano, mara tafuta sijui mzee wa kijiji akupatie nini na nini so that you get the help. So please, tuache kudanganyana. Hii story ya help, haitaji hata referendum. If you want to pass it into law, pitisheni bill pale, fanyeni parliament venye mnafanya, opportunities funguliwe vijana. The other thing is that this thing is so much ill-timed. Sasa tumetumia 10 billion kutengeneza karatasi, sijui documents, sijui gani, sijui nini. Mtaani hatuna maji. Basic needs, basic rights, which is covered in Article 43 of the Constitution. Inabongea social economic opportunities, healthcare. Hakuna dawa kwa mosi. Ushaona? Unakimbia hapa, deliveries, mortality rates zinapanda daily. And hapo mnaongea kuongeza ofisi, sijui ku maintain atachukua salo bigi because we want to prime minister atakuwa tu ni something that is functional, atakuwa anasimama kwa parliament. Nini naingia kwa ofisi yake? Actually maintaining that office. Akona two deputy prime ministers. Wanafanya nini hapo? The motorcade that atakuwa nakimbia hapa daily ikigazel mafuta zetu na taxes zinashinda tukilipa. Mbona muongelele hiyo? So that's my question. And try sana nisikuwe emotional. Najaribu. The other thing that the document itself is so much poorly written. 35% ya funding inaenda into devolution. Surely kufanya nini? Kama ni devolve functions, devolve activities, the money itaenda to the functions. Unachukaje do unaenda unaweka mahali na usemi ile do inaenda kufanya nini? Na hapo unafungulia avenues za vitu kuibiwa. Unaona? Watu wanakana do yenyewe yote kazi yake inaenda wapi? And then you're not even telling us ni pesa ngapi inaenda pale chini kwa ground.
Okay.
Unacheki? So these things nataka tu watuambie peupe nini inaendelea.
Okay.
This daylight robbery na tutaki kubaliana hii mambo. Ni hayo tu.
Thank you so much. So I need you, Bob, to pick up that one on functions, and I'll just distribute the question, then we'll answer after the final one. On the issue of functions, 35% functions. Okango, I need you to respond to, do we need the BBI to give water to Mukuru, to give water to Mukuru? Yeah, now what stops us from giving water? And then I'll let you have the comment. Any other final questions? Okay, I need you, Wilkista, to handle for me this whole issue. I feel like there's a systematic disenfranchisement of young people, mostly from informal settlements. Is there a way we can reverse that? I don't know if there are any final question. I don't think we have. So we'll start with Bob, come, and then you can now give your final comments. Answer the question, then we give our final comments as we come to an end.
Asante sana. Hata sijui kana naongeza nini. Umesema unaita Okaka? Okaka, yani amehit on the head. Devolution, na hata vile iliandikwa from 2010. Functions follow, or money follows the functions. Unaona? Kutoka 2010 tumeona kumekuwa na problem ya functions kwanza hata vile ziko devolved kwa constitution. Yani kuna function ama job ya gava national. Hii gava iko headed na president, na kuna gava ya county. Ile iko headed na governor. Sasa hizi gava mbili ukiangalia constitution, kila moja yazo ziko na nini job zake. Lakini problem moja tumekuwa nayo ni national government imekuwa haipatii county governments opportunity, hata wacha mkwanja, opportunity ya ku-execute hata hizo functions ziko nazo saa hii. Ndio sister yangu pale anasema, anaongea juu ya reality. Yuko mtaani, constitution, hizo chapter zote zimeandikwa kwa constitution. At the end of the day, tukiongea juu ya sijui devolution, system of government, na hiyo hatukuongea. Okaka may bring up, which is very good. Tukiongea about Bill of Rights, hizi vitu zote at the end of the day ziko supposed kusaidia mwananchi. Constitution si ya politician. Constitution si document ya kudetermine tutapiga kura aje, nani atakuwa na job fulani. Hiyo ni muhimu, lakini at the end of the day, constitution ni ya mwananchi. Atakula nini? Mtoi ataenda chuo wapi? Youth atapata job wapi? Education wapi? Na kwanza nikiongea juu ya youth na education, nakumbuka song ya Richie Spice. If education is the key, why make it expensive? Tukiendelea kuongea, unaona? So hiyo reality sahi mnaongelea iko kwa ground that hakuna kitu ime happen since 2010. Ndio some of us tunasema kuchange hiyo reality, si kuchange document, si kuchange maneno. Na hayo maneno, na hizo words ziko ready. Rapman wangu maneno. Ukiangalia constitution na maneno na poetry ni kuongea, lakini pia wewe ukuwe na imagination ya kupanua hizo maneno. Unaona? Sasa kama tumekuwa na failure ya kupanua maneno, failure ya kuimplement pale ground, yani kuna county government, kuna national government, lakini mwananchi analala njaa, watu wao waendi chuo, youthman iko kila siku huwezi tembea, unashikwa nini, toa hiyo yote iko kwa katiba. Sasa sisi ndio tunauliza hizi words mpya tunataka kuongeza, hizi article tunataka kuongeza mpya, na si wenyewe hatujafanya ile kitu tulikuwa tumejipromise kwa hii document ya kwanza. Hiyo change itatoka wapi? Hiyo ndio reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, as you respond to that, there's a question here online from Duncan David Onyango Duor. The BBI initiative proposes a number of proposals that addresses concerns of the Kenyan youth, which will promote their development on many fronts. Can the Linda Katiba representative, Mr. Aurora, give us an alternative to BBI proposal? As you also respond, 1 minute.
Thank you. I think that's a very simple answer to provide. The alternative to BBI is implementation, faithful and consistent implementation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. I think that's the simplest I can say. Wilkista, it is okay to pick a side. It is okay to say you support BBI, and it is okay to say you do not support BBI. I think most of the time we are stuck with this burden ya nataka tu kukuwa mtu sijaamua ama niko hapa katikati, especially if you have a platform as a young kiongozi ambayo watu wana look up to. It is okay to give direction, and then that gives you an opportunity to actually interrogate na kujiuliza maswali so that you stand for something. So most of the time tuko na hiyo pressure ya, to be politically correct. I think it is okay. The same thing, mi waambia vijana, it is okay to belong to a political party. It is important to vote. Hata kama unapigia kura debe, ama ngamia, ama punda, huyo punda akienda bunge, utakaa usema hii ndio punda nilipelekanga. Ni tofauti na wale wanasema, tumechagua nani, ameamka saa 9 ama saa 10 siku ya uchaguzi, aliwaka usiku yote jana, amekumbuka voting, ameamka anasema tumechagua nani, lakini ya kutake responsibility. So I think I pointed that out because niliona you are like, I'm not opposed to or I'm not rejecting. I think it is okay. That is a politics of consciousness and honesty. So that we, I just thought it's important to say that. Serikali yenye utu. Kenyans wamuuliza very important basic questions. President Uhuru has consistently told us, hii katiba ndi imefanya haja deliver the promises. Katiba. We are in the middle of a pandemic, biggest this country has ever seen. Baba, aitwe baba, alisema it's only 2 billion. Sasa tumeambiwa ni 14 billion. IBC said much more in terms of billions. Supposing ilikuwa ni important sana, even for baba, to make it to prime minister or president before he dies. Given the pandemic, these billions ambazo tunaenda kuspend, is there an alternative if it is so important to then just push it and have the next election and have the same referendum like most people do those questions are discussed in the next election. What is the urgency? We are in the middle of a pandemic. NHIF, for those who even have NHIF, who are very few, have also said they cannot support citizens. Watu wamekosa jobs. Industries may close because of COVID. In the middle of it, tunaona COVID billionaires. That is how unfeeling serikali ambayo tuko nayo. So nikisema, wakiuliza pale, how will BBI bring water to people? Munaongea informal settlements. All these people with gated communities and stuff, wamejichimbia maji. Let me ask you, there's a social contract between leaders and the people. And Katiba is one manifestation of the social contract. That because we cannot all fit in parliament, representative democracy, we cannot all fit in parliament, we choose one of our own to go speak on our behalf. Na champion our interests. That is representation. So, today, our solution in this country is private solution to public problems. Do you know in the city of Nairobi, which is the capital, you cannot urinate or kunya bila kulipa pesa. We have street families, we have women, we have men. Toilet zote ni private property. When the colonialists left, there were public facilities. That is how, actually use the toilet to tell you how bad we have come. You do not need BBI to realize, actually, we need public toilets where when Matatu Makanga, I do some work with women in transport sometimes. The Makanga women will tell you, no, if they are on their menses, they have to make the calculation whether they do the toilet in Kiambu or because that 10, 20, 30 shillings means something for them. We are a country that cannot provide public toilet facilities to people. Is there something wrong with that? There is. And if we can't provide that, can we provide water to people? Healthcare? No. So there's a problem, fundamentally a leadership problem. It is not a constitutional problem. Finally, I just want to thank everybody and say we have mentioned monkeys a lot in this meeting. We have also mentioned children. No monkeys were harmed, and no children were harmed in the course of this debate. May we give birth to more healthier children, and may we protect them. Today we have a parliament, the ones we have, which the best way I describe our parliament and leaders is if you are a responsible mother and you are going to the market and you have milk and you have to choose to leave your child with an MP, you will find that emaciated child. In fact, the MP will drink the milk. That is the kind of leadership we have. Yeah. And we want to increase the number of those people to drink more milk. There is a fundamental problem. I want to say, Danish, and with a lot of respect, and thank you to the co-panelists, ultimately, we must find something to live for this country. We can't talk about here as if, I have no chance in a million years to benefit directly from what has been apportioned for BBI. So it's not a personal thing. And most of the time we tend to personalize. But there's a selfishness that comes with us realizing what obligation do we have to those who come after us. So I just wanted to encourage you, find something in that you have conviction that it will work for you, but most importantly, it will work for this country. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Melvin, your comment and final comment.
Sasa, I think I want to now speak in Swahili. Okay. I think the setup ni ngumu, lakini I think it's the setup first of all that ilisema ili dictate that we speak in English. So Danish kuna kitu nilisema na ukasema those are administrative challenges or problems. Unaona kitu he's raised the same thing. Amesema the same thing about help, mnaongelea tu help, but hamjui help inafikianga nani na ifiki nani. Unaona? So hata help tukieka in whatever documents we put this help, lazima turudi chini tujiulize help inaendanga wapi, nani anafaa kuipata, na mtu anafaa kuipata anaipataje. It's like again devolution. Unaona? So and just I think atakujibu, but kukujibu tu hatuhitaji referendum ndio tukue na hiyo proposition ya help. Hatuhitaji referendum kukua na hiyo kitu ya youth commission. Kuna tu kitu kama sasa tuta change structure za hizo county government na vitu kama hizo, kama tuta add maybe kwa the executive and maybe the legislature ndio zitafanya tuende referendum. Without hizo tunaweza, hizi vitu zingine zinaweza pitishwa kama bill ama other things they can be implemented in other ways. So hatuhitaji hii referendum yote kwenda kwa hizo vitu zingine. My sister pale alisema, nimesema we don't care how we get the signatures. That was not the point. The point was, unaona sasa ukikuja kwa factions zote, mtu ana propose na mtu ana oppose BBI. Mtu ana oppose BBI atakwambia au watu walilazimishwa kusaini hizo vitu. Mwingine mwenye ana propose atakwambia hapana, zilikuwa legitimate. So ukiwa katikati kama venye mimi niko katikati saa hii, unashangaa tutajuaje? So unaiacha kitu kama IBC to verify, ama sijui kama wataenda court to harmonize hiyo kitu, unaona? Alafu the issue of BBI uko mtaani hakuna mtu anaijua, ama uko mashinani, hiyo ni makosa ya nani? Or whose responsibility and duty is it to make sure that mimi uko kwenye naishi naijua, kwenye wewe unaishi unaijua, shosho yangu anaijua, na kila mtu? Cause na feel itafika mahali kila now the country wameambiwa we are going tunaenda referendum. Wewe hujui hiyo referendum ilifikaje hapo, but unaambiwa kesho you are supposed to wake up in the morning and go vote, na mtu atakwambia, jirani yako atakwambia vote yes because maybe alipata a certain token, ama mwingine atakwambia vote no because my politician is not there. So sijui hii responsibility nataka tuamue leo ni ya nani kwenda huko mashinani kueducate watu, and then being part of the secretariat ama the drafters. Is it possible hii kitu iko in other languages? Ama is it possible watu wengine wenye hawaelewi kizungu sana waweze kuisoma, so that when you're making a choice, you're making an informed choice? Yeah. Kuna kitu nilikuwa nataka kusema. So nataka kukuchallenge wewe mwenye uko hapa. Read that document if you can understand the language before these guys at least try to maybe to interpret it. Read that document. Usiseme ati kuna mse unaaminia alikusomea hiyo document. Read your document and then uliza maswali. Kama hata mimi I've had to ask so many questions, na uliza kama hii youth council ilikuwa inaitwa hivi before, sasa mbona iko hapa saa hii na nini ita change? Unaona, uliza maswali kama hayo. Usiache ati mtu alinisomea alafu mtu asikuja kuambia hapana, usisome hiyo kitu hata ni mbaya, because we also have those challenges of mtu anasema unajua mimi huwa na follow sana this and so, najua amesema hiyo kitu ni mbaya, hapana, soma. Na I don't know what our chances are za kuenda into this choice referendum yenye unaweza choose what you want and what you do not want. Yeah. Yeah, so please make an informed choice, and I hope that this conversation wouldn't end here, but we will continue, and I believe we'll get Kenya to a better place.
Try in 1 minute.
Asante sana. It is true that not all leadership challenges are constitutional challenges, but it is also true that all constitutional challenges all constitutional challenges are leadership challenges, and that's why we are a country that is governed by the rule of law, and that rule of law today we are talking about the supreme law, Constitution of Kenya. Now yule rapa wangu amezungumza vipoa sana, amesema vitu ambavyo kwa maoni yangu naona ni ukweli, lakini pia ningependa kumuhimiza tunga mashairi, criticize kitu, kupia poem na vijana waelewe. Ushaona? Then my sister from Ukuru, I agree with you. The reality of life is here today. We are at a time when Kenyans have realized, and it is a reality, that we have economic meltdown. Today, when you have 1,000 bob, you walk out of the home, when you come back, you have 1 bob. Today, women in the slums are undergoing rape. I agree. People are raping them and no one even is reporting. The few cases that are reported are just but eyes of an iceberg. And that's why in the reports from page 45 all the way to page 48, it proposes what it calls Kenya policy guideline. And one of the people that these policy guideline targets are the marginalized, the women who are undergoing not only sexual abuse, but also physical abuse. I'll refer you to that. The other issue, we've talked about help. And my sister has ably put it. The BBI does not only target constitutional reforms. The implementation matrix is legislative, policy, and administrative, and then constitutional reforms. If you look at the proposal on the HELB amendment bill, it is a legislative proposal. You don't need to go for a referendum. That one can start even now this afternoon in Parliament. And I agree with you. The other issue is though of the water in the slums. Let me tell you, as a student of environmental and sustainable development currently, other than other things that I've studied, it is important to underscore that water is very important. And Wilkista Duma put it, that today, the most important person that will effect provision or accessibility of water to the family, immediate family, is the woman. And I agree. When you say that we don't have water in the slums, why is it that now we are not able to get that? The BBI bill proposes that in doing so, let us go back to the provisions of Article 43 that demands economic and social right, water, and not just water, clean water. So it provides for that, not as just a need, but also as a criteria in determining how much goes in Mukuru for provision of that water. And the president shall now, in his State of the Nation address annually, report on the achievement of those rights: water, social security, healthcare. It is a must. Number 3, Youth Commission. The Youth Commission is a commission, constitutional commission. For you to go for a referendum, there are certain aspects that must touch on the bill so that it can be taken to the people through a popular initiative. And I'll give you the aspects. Number 1, if that bill touches on Bill of Rights. Today, the bill we are talking about is touching on personal data as an emerging area of Bill of Rights, Article 31. So that infringement of privacy can now be controlled. It must go. Number 2, it talks of structure of devolution. We are just talking about now, how do we ensure that we take services to the people beyond the county headquarters. There comes in the creation of Ward Development Fund. And at the low level, where the people are, you start measuring development bottoms up. That requires a referendum. Lastly, because I can talk and talk and talk, I want to urge, mimi ningependa kuwauliza wasikilizaji, watazamaji wengi, kwa sababu Kenya hii tumeona mara nyingi tunapigana baada ya uchaguzi. Wale ambao wanaathirika zaidi ni wale ambao wanaishi katika mitaa za slums, kwa sababu huko ndio wanasiasa wanaenda wanawasha moto kisha mnauana. Mimi ningependa kuwahimiza leo hii, kwa sababu mmechoka kupigana, kwa sababu kila mara nyinyi ndio mnatumiwa, kwa sababu hamna maji, hamna kazi, hamna cha kufanya, hamna chakula. Jameni, leo tuko na nafasi murwa ya kuhakikisha kwamba nakala hii au mswada huu ambao unaungwa mkono au unapingwa au unajadiliana, tuhakikishe kwamba yale ambayo yako pale ndani yanatufaa sisi kama wananchi ama haitufaa. Sio kupinga tu kwa sababu tumeambiwa linda. Wewe usilinde kitu ambayo inaoza. Wewe tekeleza, kisha hakikisha kutekeleza wewe ni moja wapo ambalo anatekeleza. Na la muhimu, ikiwa nakala hii au mswada huu itatusaidia sisi kama wananchi, basi unapoenda katika uchaguzi, chagua kiongozi ambaye hatailinda tu, lakini hataitekeleza pia. Ushaona? Ndio maana nasema mimi, kwa maoni yangu, in my own opinion, as Frederick Okango, I believe that Kenyans are in a consensus that the economic meltdown must be sorted. Corruption must end. Thief of public money must be jailed. Not only jailed, but the process of arriving at jailing them must be expeditious, so that we have a document that we can easily implement, so that our women in this country who are suitable, capable, and have the opportunity to lead must be given their right as a matter of right, not as a tokenism, as my brother was saying. I appreciate your participation.
Thank you for that emotional conclusion.
Kitu moja nataka kuambia, in life you choose the principles that you follow as a young person. And as a young person on this panel, leo, nikiamka asubuhi, every day I know I have 3 choices. I can take an emphatic no, an emphatic yes, and an emphatic sitting on the fence. It is my right, it is my choice. We live in a democracy. And you can see exactly why I did not take a side. Because kuna mayouth hapa wanataka kuelewa vitu zingine as make sense. And how will I make sense to a young person without them feeling like I am shoving my yes or no down your throat? Si ndio? Si mimi kuwalazimisha kusema yes ama no. Right? Kuna msichana hapo demo hapa sana ameuliza ati mbona tunapewa recommendations zenye ni kama wewe unataka pad lakini mtu anakubaia lipstick. Na umesema niongee real. Real ni hii. Ukiwa na Bazoo, Blessa, Sponyo, leo akupatie 3,000 enda ununue lipstick na unajua hauna pad, utafanya? Utaenda kununua lipstick ya 3,000 ama kununua pad? So the provisions are in such a way that as there's a way you stand to benefit if you are thinking critically about the things you need. For example, amesema ukiwa na mwanamke mahali atafikiria maji, lakini wanaume wenye alikuwa parliament na wamekuwa huko since I don't know 50 years ago, wameamua stima ni more important kushinda maji. Na wewe unajua ile place yenye maji na kuholdia kwa life yako. So you know that if I vote in this person, there's this benefit that I derive from voting that person. Kuna story tena umesema hapo ya kuna mavijana mtaani wanakuwa raped and we're not doing anything about it and we're not having the conversations about the same. During hii period ya COVID-19, mimi I worked on a campaign called Justice for Every Child. Na tulitembea mitaani, by the way, tulikuwa Madare, tulienda hadi mali usikimie, their safe house is. And we had the stories that came out of those places. A woman ran away from her home because the father of the children was abusing, sexually abusing or even molesting the kids. They were very sad stories by the way. Tulitoka huko kama tuko traumatized. And even in Madare where, that is mostly where I work, so I'll refer to that. In Madare where the leaders were nowhere to be seen. COVID ilitu hit. MCA wenu alisimama akakuja kugawa food. Kama aligawa food ama mask ilikuwa once or twice akapotea. The people who were in the ground, on the ground, doing actual work were young people. And I helped young people fundraise. Kupeleka food, kupeleka pads and things like that. So hata sisi tukisema, oh sijui nini hakuna or this and that is not happening, tujiangalie. Kuna hiyo ngoma inasema tujiangalie. Tujiangalie sisi wenyewe before tuanze kupoint fingers outside, because your MCA, you elected them. And if you did not elect them, by the way, that is, I think it's bad, but still it doesn't hold you, not to say that mimi nita hold leader wangu accountable. So jua, at any point in time, you have the right to hold your leaders to account. Alafu pia kumalizia, the lady from Mukuru, kuna provision kwa BBI on sexual offenses. So kuangalia hiyo story ya wenye wamekuwa raped, sodomized and all that, it will actually take care of that. Yes. Alafu pia kitu ingine nimesikia tukisema ati do we need a referendum to go through all the steps? For example, ile umeuliza ya help. One thing I want to tell everyone here, hizi recommendations tunaona za BBI ni watu walizimake. It's Kenyans, it's youth like you and me who made them. I am telling you because kuna youth wako wanajua kuandika memorandum, but they had recommendations that they wanted. So myself, I volunteered my skills to put from some of the youth serving organizations and young people to put their recommendations in a memorandum so that ikienda inaweza somwa na watu wa take into account. Help, kuna young people walisema, history ya help imetulemea. Tukitoka uni, tukitoka kole, hatuna job immediately, so we can't pay. That is how the 4-year grace period came about. And hizi recommendations zingine vile nimewambia zilikuwa made, sio zote zinapitia kwa referendum. Kuna zenye ni administrative vile amesema, kuna zenye ni policy statutory, zingine implementation time frame ni 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. So si ati recommendations zote lazima zipitie BBI. And for me, I'll still remain categorical that my position is to help young people understand and take stances whether yes or no based on the information that they have. Asante.
Thank you so much. I'll read final comment online. Anika Community Media says the conversation around unmasking the complexity around BBI is bringing out the fact that the BBI is an overlapping document with most of what's suggested already in the Constitution. Kwacha Africa says there's need to pause and ensure that civic education is given priority in regards to bringing on board each and every citizen in creating deeper understanding of this report. Why the rush? This Boniface Aguto Kat says Article 3.1 dictates that it's our cardinal duty to linda Katiba. The moment has naturally come for young people to democratically engage themselves and participate in rejecting malicious acts meant to defile our constitution. The right to assemble and freedom of expression is the most affected during the lockdown period. Our political class has taken advantage of law enforcement to shrink the civic space and violate dissent. Duncan David, that already you responded to. Judy Monique says, good insights to Wilkista on women's involvement in governance process. However, this BBI will still not solve women's marginalization in political parties and even their incorporation into the executive positions at these parties. From what Aurora has said, it seems now Kenya has tried to gender mainstream, but probably it's because it's a woman-led party. I'm coming. I need you guys to, as I come to conclusion, I'll tell you a 1-minute story. On Thursday, the previous week, I was in Malindi. I'd gone to visit a cousin of mine who's my age mate called Dennis Awino Ndaya. On Sunday, Dennis Awino left Malindi town to go to Gede to go and visit his brother, the brother who had family there. Somewhere along State Jamaembe, a motorbike runs into Dennis's scooter. Dennis falls down, and then Dennis breaks his leg at the thigh here. Dennis at 9:30 is rushed by well-wishers to Malindi District Hospital, where he's rushed into theater. That time they try to stop the bleeding. It goes on and goes on. At 5:30, Dennis starts to convulse. They tend to look for the CT scan to try to see whether he had a brain injury. There was no CT scan. Dennis convulses. They look for an ambulance in Malindi District Hospital. The ambulance wasn't there. When it came, it did not have fuel. They went to look for fuel. It took 3 hours. Dennis continues to convulse, continues to have more convulsions, slipping into consciousness and unconsciousness. They finally leave Malindi District Hospital at 12:30 a.m. on Monday morning, heading to Mombasa to transfer Dennis to Jocham Hospital, where they had gotten a seat. Because remember, all this time they've been trying to go to Mombasa to look for a seat. The nurses are on strike, therefore they're not admitting in the ICU. At 1 a.m., Dennis died, my cousin. And on Friday, we are burying Dennis in Oyugis. Now tell me, the story of Dennis is the story of many, many Kenyans around this country. Are we going to tell Dennis to wait for the BBI for his life to be preserved? Are we going to tell Dennis that many, many Dennis in this country, mothers who are giving birth outside hospitals, people who are not able to eat today, that just wait a little bit more, even though you're hungry and you're dying, the Constitution will cure you, even though it can give you food today. Remember very well that I am a moderator and I'm supposed not to take a side. But today, this thing being such close to my heart and being an emotional, personal reality to me, I must take a stand. And therefore, as Danish Odongo, the son of Kano, I reject the BBI wholeheartedly. And I join the ranks of every single Kenyan who says no to nonsense, who say no to manipulation, who say no to rhetoric by the political class, who say no to being taken round and round and round. We need food today. We need water today. We need healthcare today. And it is within the power of the current constitution to provide all these things and preserve the lives of people like Dennis Awino Ndaya, whose soul may rest in peace. And I said I was going to stop getting into activism like our brother here says. But today I dedicate myself again to activism. I dedicate myself to activism that is emotional, that is passionate, that will change this country for the better, so that eventually when I have children in this country, they will live a life of dignity. Thank you so much, my panelists. Thank you so much, everybody, for giving us time. And a round of applause to the lovely plenary session. Long live activism, long live. Long live activism, long live.
Long live.
And thank you so much to the organizers. I want to urge us that we have this conversation, and let's continue to have this conversation. May God bless you. Thank you all, and let us continue having this conversation. May we now have a photo as a sign of civic conversation. As a sign of activism.
Yes. And as they pose for their photo, we would like to thank you very much, the panelists, Wilkista Duma, Frederick Ogango, Melvin Thogo, Michael Aurora, and Bobby Mkangi, for that very passionate and thought-provoking discussion around unmasking the complexities around BBI. And I think we are all better off now as we attempt to make decisions on whether we support or reject that initiative. Asanteni sana, and thank you so much, Bwana Dani Shodongo, for moderating so brilliantly. Asante sana. So we are live from the Kenya National Theatre, or as it's currently known, the Kenya Cultural Center. And this is the Democracy and Rights Festival. That is a hashtag that you've been following and using to send your comments that have been also used here to enrich the discussion that we have been having over the past hour or so. So we continue to send our comments and any other issues that you may have through the hashtag Democracy and Rights Festival. And right about now, I would like to welcome Catherine Hamali, who is a program manager for Unciv. As you're aware, we are running this festival over about 5 days, from today the 7th to the 11th of December. And we have two locations, the Kenya Cultural Center, or as it's more popularly known, the Kenya National Theatre, as well as the Alliance Francaise. And Madame Hamali will give us a rundown of some of the activities that we can expect going forward as we engage on important issues surrounding human rights, promotion of gender equality, as well as the consolidation of democracy. Karibu sana. Please use this, it has been sanitized for you.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. And I must, I think, start from a point of looking at Danish and saying it must be difficult to be a moderator and you're not required to take a stand, but along the way, you need to take a stand. I think it's better when you're a discussant. But I think the place where you are as a moderator and the place where we are as organizers, sometimes we have to remain, speak about watermelon, but we are just there. But probably deep inside, we have our own sentiments, but then we, sorry. I'm not that short. So deep inside, we are required to really moderate and provide a platform. And I want to be real, as the lady from Mukuru said, tukue real tuongee mambo real. So I think as Forum C, we keep trying to really provide a platform where then we can engage. Na tunakujanga mashinani. So it's just that sometimes we have different levels of platforms where then we bring it here and beam it live. And if you've been following what we do the last couple of years, you'd know that this auditorium would have been full. This place would have taken over the whole place. In 2018, in 2019, we take over the whole place and really have real discussions. So I want to say thank you so much to our panelists, Bobby Mkangi, very good. Thank you for the input. Michael Aurora, thank you, Frederick. Thank you, Wilkista, and the power lady, the young one who is still growing, Melvin. Please keep going and keep up that spirit. And yeah, so I think I really appreciate your contributions. And we've come to the end of today. And as we began in the beginning, we told you that this is a 5-day series of events organized by Forum CIV and its partners, a number of our partners. And we're just looking at a number of issues and looking at the, democracy and human rights and a lockdown. So I think we have discussed a lot today, unmasking BBI. I don't want to unmask it anymore. I think the message has been very clear. We provide the platform. You're able to make a decision. I know in this panel, we've had those who you can clearly tell where they are. There are those who are pro, there are those who are against it, but the most important thing is I think we are providing a platform for emerging views and different views to be discussed so that you who is there at home, you who is following us, you who is there mashinani, pale Mukuru, Mombasa, Kilifi, Kisumu, mnatufuata huko kutoka Kondele, you are able to make your own decision because remember we are preserving our constitution and that is our right to be able to do that. So I hope that you have learned a lot today. I hope that you have followed. I hope that probably if you've not finished reading the document, I hope that you've been able to really understand. We were just unmasking it. And when you unmask, you look at both the good and the bad, and also the opportunities that are ahead of us. So I want to really, really thank you. Thank the audience who followed it. Thanks to the Embassy of Sweden, the ambassador for really joining us from the beginning, and also the team at the Embassy of Sweden who have been following this event. So as we told you, we have a number of things because the beauty about the annual Democracy and Human Rights Festival is that we bring different mixes of people, Kuna wale wamesoma mpaka wakasoma wakamaliza kitabu, si ndio? kuna wale tunaanza kuchambua, kuna wale tuko katikati hapo, but the most important thing is that there's a platform for discussion. So this is just a test of today. So from tomorrow, again, we have events still planned, 9 to 1 p.m. every day until Friday. Tomorrow we discuss issues around creativity and innovation, and very inspiring case studies on how we can use creativity and innovation. And I hope the rapper, where were you? Yule mistari, I hope kesho utakuwa hapa tena kufuatilia, so that you know then, as you are being told by Michael, write something. Use your poetry. Use it to write something that can really inspire the young people. The lady who was in Mukuru saying, Mambo ni real, I hope then you can be able to know that within your own space, you can be creative, you can be able to use innovation and still be able to make a change. So tomorrow we'll be discussing that, again, 9 to 11. And then on Wednesday, we talk about, I think the biggest issue that has been going around, COVID-19, and the issues around health, the health challenges that have come in terms of COVID-19 and in terms of just access to healthcare. And Danish, I think you've given a very interesting story about your cousin. But again, this is a story of many, many other Kenyans. So we want to see, besides, health issues have been there. There's been challenges along. I would have told you a story of my father. May he rest in peace, how he was carried from a motorbike, like carried from home because there are no roads to get to my home. And he was carried and he's in a coma. And I had to pay an ambulance from Nairobi because I could be able to do that, to go to the village and pick him and bring him back for treatment. By the time he was getting there, of course, yeah, because we had to navigate different health steps. So you can imagine if within the nearest dispensary where he was born, where he grew up, he couldn't access that. So I can imagine how many other Kenyans are going through that. So I think it's very important that we discuss that. And then again, we have also seen that COVID-19, so on Thursday, Wednesday again, we discussed the widening gap of inequalities. Tumesema BBI iko na wenyewe, si ndio? Tumeongea hapa juu, kuna monkeys wengine, tukasema emotions, but in those emotions, we are clearly aware that the inequality gap has become wider and wider. So we just want to see then what can we do within our own spaces? And I like what Wilkista said, within your own space, be able to do something. Use your skill, what you have. So I hope you don't need a lot of resources. And I'm speaking to the young people here. You really don't need a lot of resources. If God has given you a mind, I always tell my children, kama umepewa mikono na miguu na akili na kila kitu, there's something small you are able to do. So we also want to be able to discuss that on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we will have also a passionate topic about women human rights defenders and their struggles, their gains, their opportunities. There'll be also a very good team of panelists discussing those issues. I don't know whether they are feminists or they are human rights defenders, women rights, those kind of things. And I know my friend Mwikali somewhere is watching, and probably she will be here to discuss some of those issues. So be on the lookout for that discussion. Then on Friday, we discuss something again that is very interesting and that is good also for us to know, the issues of intersex. Again, we really want to provide that platform because as Forum CIV, then we provide a platform for all kinds of discussions. So we'll again be unmasking the challenges around stigma and discrimination that goes around the intersex debate. So again, please be locked and follow up these discussions and keep following us on social media, #democracy and what? Yeah, democracy. Kumbe mko na mimi, Democracy and Rights Festival. So I want to just say thank you so much. Thank you for your participation. And I wish, as I said from the beginning, we would have all of you here. I know I've been following the discussions. People are saying we want to be there physically. But again, we know the COVID-19 restrictions. I wish there would be a chance for us to be in this room and really follow. But then, unfortunately, we are not able to do that. So I just want to thank you, all those who have been here in the auditorium following. Thank you, those who are following us on the social media platform. Please keep tweeting, keep following, and invite others. The week has just begun. And by Friday, I'm sure we'll all have learned something and have the opportunity to make a difference. So thank you so much, and God bless you.
Asante sana, Madam Catherine Hamali, that is Program Manager, Forum CIV. And as you know, Forum CIV are coordinating the Human Rights Festival this year with the support of the Swedish Embassy and also partnering with Siasa Place, Power 254, Creative Spills, and Sauti ya Wanjiku. And as Madam Hamali said, we have lots and lots of activities that cover wide-ranging issues all the way from tomorrow through to Friday. We'll be having various panels and all that. So at this moment, I would like to take an opportunity to invite a brilliant artist as we close the session for today. And for those of us who are here physically, socially distanced, I can see, we have some refreshments and snacks outside around the Mugomo tree, just outside the theater here. I would like to take this opportunity then to welcome Mr. Papillon to come and close the session for us today as we look forward to the activities going forward through the week. Karibu sana. So remember, you can follow and send your comments through Democracy and Rights Festival. Keep tweeting, keep sending your commentaries, which have so far already informed the panel discussion that we had earlier. So that is Democracy and Rights Festival hashtag. The theme this year is Democracy and Rights under Lockdown, something that we are all familiar with because the lockdown has affected us in many ways that are related to the realization of human rights, gender equality, as well as issues surrounding democracy. So you can tweet or send your messages via Facebook or through that hashtag Democracy and Rights Festival, and the festival team will be able to view that and perhaps even air over the social channels that we have been using. So on stage right now is Mr. Papillon, a Kenyan artist who is famed for constructing his own instruments. And we hope he's going to give us, well, we are certain he's going to give us a brilliant performance of a few songs, and then we'll close the session. Karibu sana.
Our conversation today, our conversations in this forum is full of tears, is full of internal struggle. Democracy has been there. The conversation of human rights has been there for decades. But it is the energy of the minority. And we've chosen this direction knowing that it will make us very emotional. But we are still there. The song I'm going to do for you is called Aurora. Is a song with the respect of them who were there before us and the words that they left to us and the power of those words. Aurora.
Wanna can't be
Dígame gondaregi, wana kana milimo, oyo nyuradi. Ando esto, ando esto, oyo nyuradi. Ando esto, oyo nyuradi. Dígame gondaregi, wana kana milimo, oyo nyuradi. Ando esto, ando esto, oyo nyuradi. Ando esto, oyo nyuradi. Dígame gondaregi, wana kana milimo, oyo nyuradi. Dígame gondaregi, wana kana milimo, oyo nyuradi. Dígame gondaregi, wana kana milimo, oyo nyuradi.